They added a button, and we are live, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to episode 44 of the Sling'N podcast. I'm TJ.
And I'm Kent.
And joining us tonight, a returning guest, Tim Herron of Tim Herron Shooting.
Hey, guys. Thanks for having me.
Welcome back. As well as two newcomers to the podcast. We have Kite and Sam. Sam specifically of Evolution Training Solutions. Both Kite and Sam were students and participants in the training this past weekend that was hosted by Kent up there in, at least as far as I'm concerned, the Great White North of Pennsylvania. And we're here to talk about it, guys. So first off, let's go around the room. Kent, what's new with you?
Pew, pew, pew. Work, work, work. Pew, pew, pew. That's pretty much it, man. Got another pretty full class this coming weekend for CCW Essentials. So I'm psyched for that. Taught 3 private lessons, attended 2 matches, one of which I'm happy to say I won. No small thanks to Mr. Herron over here. He made me go fast. He made me go faster, so that's pretty cool. I beat like 6 old retired guys in a wheelchair and a blind kid, so that was really cool.
So the training worked.
It worked great.
Yes.
No, but I had a crazy pack. I was on the range for another 2 weekends ago. I said to Tim as he left, like, man, next weekend's going to be a nice quiet weekend around here. Yeah, no. I was just on the range for 14 hours both days. So that's what I was up to. But
awesome.
Life is good, man.
Yeah, dude, it's been tough for both of us to like just nail each other down. Like we usually talk all the time. It just adulting just keeps getting in the way. It just sucks. Don't turn that around.
I was like, man, phrasing.
Yeah, okay. Phrasing is in play. Fair. Okay. Sam.
I'll nail you anytime, baby.
Oh, Jesus Christ. This has already gone off the rails. Sam, Evolution Training Solutions. Show, man. So as a newcomer, we like to ask all of our guests who the hell you are. So why don't you take a moment and explain who you are, talk about Evolution Training Solutions, and who are you when you're not on the range, man?
So Sam DeSimone from PA. When I'm not teaching or shooting, I'm a police officer full-time. On patrol now. Did a little bit of other stuff, narcotics, on task forces and stuff like that in the past. Nothing crazy special. Let's see. Do a little competition shooting. I started a couple years ago. Haven't really done much. IDPA wasn't really a big interest of me. A lot of the rules were kind of less practical. I kind of started doing it just to get more range time and practice for my job. And it kind of, I felt like it was like limiting me of the practicality. So I started doing it again last year. Figure I'd give it another crack. Classified my first match back. Shot a couple more over last fall, and then now my range that I shoot at it just transitioned to USPSA starting this year. So starting to do some USPSA work now. Shoot Clary Optics. I've been running a dot for work for about 3.5 years now. Mm-hmm. So I really digging a dot, man. Brought my shooting game twice as good as what it used to be.
Outstanding, man. Yeah, you got to live that dot life, or you're just not living.
The pours, man. Tim's over there running 1911s, and we're running real guns. They're called Glocks. You and your Nighthawk.
Start the fight off early. Okay. Well, welcome to the show. We're happy to have you.
Thank you.
Kite, also first time on the show. Welcome, formally. So, Kite, same question. Why don't you go ahead and explain to the folks at home who the hell you are?
Yeah, just a regular dude. I mean, in my regular life, I work as an electrical engineer for a company called AAR Products here in Pennsylvania. I live in Easton. So when I travel a lot for work, it's one of the perks of my job, right? I get to see a lot of the country. Occasionally, I've gone abroad. I think my last trip abroad was to Vostra, Sweden. for factory acceptance tests. So I kind of was a geek, right? Went to college, I love math, electrical engineering. I studied a lot of history. I read a lot of books on American military history, that sort of thing. I write. So I'm kind of very cerebral that way. It's what I love to do. And I think it wasn't until 2015, after the San Bernardino attacks in California, that I started seriously thinking about this whole get a gun thing. So for 2 decades, I walked into a gun store, and it's like I literally only just went to the shotgun and rifle section of the store. All those little plastic things in the case stands, in the pistols, never went that side of the store. So 2015, I would say, was when I kind of wanted to really get serious about it. Didn't do anything about it till really mid 2016. Took a very basic kind of.
For fuck's sakes.
Yeah.
What is it with these dudes that come to guns and are just awesome right off the bat? What? What the fuck? This keeps killing me, man. So don't let Kite fool you. This dude could burn it down with a pistol. And to hear you say it's been since 2016 just makes me real angry about like 2002 until 2014. Last week.
Yeah, 2000.
Good for you, man. 2000, maybe not yet. Like, damn. Good for you, Kite. That's cool. I'm sorry I cut you off, but
no, it's okay. It's okay. But yeah, that's
me.
And to be honest, I think the first 6-7 months of after I picked up a gun and went to a class, oh my gosh, I remember the first time I was in an indoor range. It's Heritage Guild. You guys must know it. Yeah, it's by me here. Oh my gosh, I didn't hit anything. I'm like, I like that Springfield Armory looking thing. How about I take that one? That's kind of what it was. And I think it wasn't until about 7 months into the whole thing that I'd come home and show my wife targets, like, look what I did. It was like a shotgun splatter, and I'm all happy with myself. That sort of thing. Maybe we've all been there. I don't know.
But I was there last week. Last week, you saw me on the radio. What are you talking about? I didn't hit anything. Tim's whole class. I shot in the direction of things.
Yeah, but but I would say that Tim has a friend. I kind of learned about Tim through him, actually. I think I ran into Sentinel Concepts by accident almost. Quite honestly, I was watching a YouTube video by a guy called Honest Outlaw on because I was digging a CZ, or at the time a PO7, which I love, and he said, hey, Steve Fisher runs these things of Sentinel Concepts, and then that's how the rabbit hole began for me. So I looked him up, and in some ways, long before I met him, he actually changed my life in some ways, because I'd never seen anybody shoot the way he did. And I thought to myself, there's this whole world of people who really do this at a higher level than what is commonly pedestrian, if you know what I mean. So your average run-of-the-mill, go to a range and put holes in paper kind of thing. And so Practically Tactical, Nick and Jesse, those guys, started listening to them. And then I realized that, there's a level of seriousness and rigor with shooting that can be achieved on the combative side of the house, I guess. So did that for a while, and I guess I really learned to shoot because I realized that there's no limit really. It's up to the individual as to how far you want to push yourself. So I stopped comparing myself to the people I would go to the range and see shooting. I realized there's a whole level of shooters that I needed to kind of benchmark myself against. And then after a while, finally I took a critical handgun class with Steve in Virginia last year, Culpeper. And I mostly took that class in all sincerity. I had done quite a bit of shooting, and I knew that I'd done things with Cal before, and others, and I knew I was able to do that portion of it. But then I went to a USPSA match one day and said, "Holy shit! Okay, this is something else," And I asked Steve when I met him in Culpeper, and there's nobody who's really in the industry that I could think of at the time, except maybe Frank Proctor, that's kind of merging these two worlds of combatives and competitive shooting. And it was like, oh, let me send you to a friend of mine. His name's Tim Herron. Look him up. He does a practical performance pistol kind of thing, and that's what you need to do. You're done with shooting B8s at 50 yards. You can do that. You need to go learn the dynamic side of things, and that's the long story of sort of how I found out about your practical performance class and came there. And
That's awesome.
yeah. So anyway, long out of it, I apologize if I was just joining on there. That's sort of my background and how I came to to where I am today, I guess.
No, that's an awesome journey. I'm just over here like rethinking my life choices about how I'm not an electrical engineer and never been to Sweden. And God, Kent, what are we doing with our lives, man?
I don't know. I have no idea. This dude's been shooting for like 11 minutes. I've been shooting for 30 fucking years. I still miss shit all the time. Kite's over there like, I can hit it from further away. And we're like, we know, Kite. Stop it.
It's almost like my uncle. My uncle was like a industrial floor salesman. And he started shooting because he did a lot of work up near SIG Academy. He was like, oh, I'm going to go take a class up here and rent a gun. And now he's like, dude can run a gun. Just started shooting like 4 years ago.
You know, it never ceases to amaze me how the people that typically pick it up later in life don't have any of those training scars developed. And they've got this, you know, almost an academic maturity
and more
in their approach, and they know how to study it better. They're not being influenced by, well, my granddaddy said we do it this way.
Well, that's because we're old and we don't have as much time to waste on this shit as you youngsters do.
Says the guy who looks like he gets carded when he's alone in a McDonald's.
You shut your mouth, sir. It's been a week or two.
Yeah, the beard's coming in nicely. I can see it.
Stop it. I had to shave 5 days ago. Come on now.
Oh, God. So with that,
I shaved him while he was here. I mean,
your shave, more will come in.
I try.
So with that, Tim, how the hell have you been?
I've been great. Been busy, which is good. I mean, despite all the COVID stuff and you know, shutdowns on different things, and you know, kind of had some challenges with you know, within like April and mid-May, you know, because of different shutdowns on ranges and parks and things like that. But yeah, I mean, since mid-May and to now, I mean, actually, Lewisberry, Pennsylvania, kicked off a 5-week stint. Now I'm 5 weeks in a row, starting with you guys last weekend or weekend before last. Last weekend, Jesus, where was I last weekend? Oh, I was in Minnesota this past weekend. I'm actually teaching a local class. I say a local class. It just happens to be in Albuquerque, but it takes the same, you know, the same level of focus and concentration and level of time to organize and everything. But I'm doing a class this weekend here in Rio Rancho, just north of Albuquerque, in Rio Rancho, New Mexico. And then I've got 2 other class dates, one in just north of Chicago and one just a little outside Des Moines coming up here. So I got like a 5-week training, stint straight here for the next 5 weeks. I get 1 week off and then I hit it hard for like 10 weeks straight. So I'm loving life. Like Kite, I mean, I'm in a job now that I love. You know, I'm passionate for getting to share my experiences and share my passion and interest in teaching and helping others, and get to do that by getting to travel all over the country and meet all kinds of awesome people and get to work with all kinds of great people every weekend too. And you know, you get great class hosts like Kent and it's been fantastic. I would say I want to do it every single weekend, but that would be a lie.
Yeah.
But I want to do it all the time. I mean,
your house will never get done.
Exactly. That's the problem. But I can't get enough of this. Seriously, I'm truly blessed with folks like everybody here on this panel and the hundreds of people that come and see me every year for a class. And I mean, like I said, and I say this, you know, at the end of class last weekend too, and this past weekend, you know, if it wasn't for you guys coming and taking time and investing in your training with me, I wouldn't get to do what I love to do. So, yeah, like I said, I mean, I feel like I'm walking the earth, the most blessed person to walk it. So it's awesome.
So real quick, I'm gonna say very, very little because it's about hearing what these 2 dudes have to say, honestly, but. Dude, you do not stop with the shooting stuff. Like, Y'all don't know, but we sat at my freaking dining room table till 2 a.m. after TD2 and talked about shooting. Like this guy's an Energizer bunny with a 1911. It's unbelievable the level of passion and effort, and just getting to see the level of time, effort, and energy that you put in to a weekend was something I respect very highly, dude. So
no, I appreciate that.
Day one, he's like, "Hey guys, you don't mind if we go a little late today, right?"
Yeah.
I'm in danger.
So somewhere at midnight, there's Tim with a whip going, "Kent, that's not what I told you to do." And I'm like, "I know."
So, Kent, we'll kick it over to Kite and Sam here in a minute, and we'll start drilling down. We'll start drilling down on the questions. But I kind of want to flip things around just a little bit, because this is the first time we're doing an AAR where we've actually got the instructor from that class.
Yes, I know.
In the AAR with us. And because, we're all arguably overly modest. Tim, I'd like to ask for your input as the instructor who had to wrangle this band of miscreants for the weekend in Pennsylvania. How do you feel that this class went overall? How do you feel you did as an instructor? How do you feel your students did in, absorbing what you had to present to them?
This is a great question. And I'm glad that we kicked it off with this, because I had some concerns, to be honest, not with the skill level and not with the reception of material to everybody, to all the students in the class. In fact, I prefer classes like this, as opposed to a class where everybody is kind of almost at that same level. Like, I think it challenges me more as an educator when I've got a diverse group of guys. So like Sam and Kite are both like neither, as well as Kent, are no slouches behind a pistol. But then also getting, like I had a couple of newer shooters that had really never tried any competition before. I had a young junior shooter that holy cow. Yeah, Dylan was awesome. And his dad, but having people kind of from the law enforcement side of the house, like Sam, and actually Paul, Dylan's dad, also is in law enforcement. Having guys that are kind of more about the martial art of applied violence from a self-defensive standpoint, such as Kite and Zoltan as well. I mean, I had a great diversity of students in the class, and dude, like I said, as an educator, I look at that as like challenge accepted. Like, that is what's going to be awesome about this, is because it's not like, I know for a fact it's not going to be rote material, that is just like, okay, we're going to do this. And then after that, okay, everybody's on the same page and now we're going to do this. So, in ways that's awesome. In other ways, and as I know Kite had to leave before we kind of got to do our debrief of class, because he had to head off to work Sunday evening. But I know Sam and Kent, and this is, I truly I want, the absolute honesty, tell me when I was long-winded, like when sometimes, and there were a few times that discussions or lectures kind of went down a rabbit hole, so to speak, that there were certain people that like their attention spans are like, okay, all right, like, let's get on with it. Like, when do we get to go shoot some more, and like, shut up enough. Let us go do this now. But I think some of those rabbit holes were also like necessary to learn, like to me, I think rabbit holes are good when and sometimes it was the same person, but other times it was it never was really the same person always the same time. Like, if there was a question or a part of the lecture or part of the, that what I was explaining to somebody that really struck true to them. Like, I know Kite would be like, okay, so what you're talking about, and he wanted to reiterate so that he knew and was willing to absorb the information that I had. I know, Kent did the same thing, and Sam did the same thing. And like I said, we had a bunch of students that were just thriving and hungry for knowledge, which is great, because then it's not just, okay, we're going to talk about this for 5 minutes. Then I'm going to task you guys with the new exercise or drill, and that's what we're going to do. I mean, it was like, let's talk about the nuances of grip pressures on a pistol. Let's talk about, the nuances of strong hand only shooting or support hand shooting, and, the importance of getting the body in behind the gun, or whatever it was we happen to be talking about. So I welcome that challenge, knowing that from a time management aspect as a teacher, sometimes it makes things a little long and drawn out, and it sometimes can be possibly at the detriment of losing my audience a little bit. So yeah, there were a couple of times, especially on TD1, like Sam talked about, like by 3 o'clock, I knew like, okay, shit, I'm 45 minutes past where I really want to be to really run the curriculum and run the program. But at the same time, I'm like, dude, like I ain't giving up if you guys ain't giving up. Like if everybody wants to stay and learn, I want to give you my, 200% of what I'm capable of giving you. Like this isn't just a program like, okay, we're going to show up at 8 and okay, hey, 5 o'clock, it's 5:01. It's time to go get beers and pizza at the restaurant down the road. I mean, it was like, no, I want to make sure that everybody gets every ounce of what I can offer them to progress or improve their shooting. So, and I think in those respects, it went well. But yeah, I think kind of just like this right now, maybe I get a little long-winded. So,
dude, you're so passionate though. The thing is some dudes talk because they want to hear themselves talk. Other dudes talk because they fucking love what they're talking about. I'm gonna put you in the second column. Like
the first column is mostly podcasters.
Oh God. Yeah, dude. I mean, there's no question about the level of passion, and you just did not. I mean, Justin was grilling you at like 7:30, 8 o'clock at night, sitting in the West Shore Clubhouse on TD2, and you didn't even have a hesitation about sitting there and talking to him. I mean,
no, not at all. Not at all.
You clearly love this shit. So
I do. I do. So, and it's not just the competitive aspect. It's the, it's the like really diving down into the diagnostics of things, like how can I influence that shooter, or how can I get on that particular student's level so that they understand and gain a deeper grasp of what it is that I want to share with them to make them better. So
that's awesome, man. Well, we've got Sam has to boogie in like 20 minutes or so and go save the planet. So we're going to give him an opportunity. Drug dealers in northern Pennsylvania, beware, because Sam's going to sign on here in like 20 minutes or half. He's going to be like 10-8, motherfucker. What? Like, here I come. So right before he does that, Sam, why don't you break down the weekend for us, dude? Tell us what you thought.
So starting day one, basically how you had us run that stage, I thought that was awesome. I kind of knew where you're getting at with it, with you seeing where we are at, and when I knew like we were going to be doing that, like taking notes on us and how we ran the stage, mentally I kind of took notes on myself of where, like, what I was doing and where I probably could have done better, which I think I probably did pretty well, because everything I picked up on myself messing up, you basically said, yep, I took a note on that, that. And then, there was like one or two other things that I think you pointed out, which I thought that was great. I liked how we did it cold. You basically told us, like, plan that stage out, go do it how you would do it, and I'll let you know how you do and where you could progress from there and be better. I liked how we did that. And then we got into some, line drills and stuff like that. And I did tie, your little drill there. Who did I tie with?
With
little
Eric Steiner. Yeah.
Yeah. 18 rounds in 5 seconds in the 2x3 box?
Yep.
With the duty gun.
With the duty gun.
not your little Nighthawk.
Oh my goodness.
He's still on.
Folks, it's a tale as old as time. The never-ending battle between 1911s and the Plastic Fantastics. Some people are perfect. Others shoot 1911s.
Well, people have to work to shoot good. You can't pick up a gun and it shoots itself. No, but the square range stuff was good. I liked that. And then I liked how at the end of day 2, you had us run that USPSA stage again and go from running it cold on without any of your instruction and then see where we could go from there and how much we progressed. And just by the end of day 2, without you telling us again how we should run that stage, I shaved 7 seconds off my run. And that alone was pretty big for me.
Yeah, that's a respectable increase.
7 seconds, bro. I would literally. There are times, especially when we're talking about like going to major matches. There are times I would seriously castrate myself if that meant I could save a half a second on a stage, because that could be the difference between a national title or 5th place. So 7 seconds, yeah. Like there's dudes I know that would literally give up everything they own to find 7 seconds on a stage to be able to win a national title if that was what was at stake. So yeah, in defense of kind of like Sam with 7 seconds, 7 seconds is, I mean, that's otherworldly.
Yeah, it's an eternity. Oh my gosh.
I think the biggest thing for that was probably the block instruction on entrances and exits from your positions. Just coming into your position with the gun up and getting out of it while you're still firing, say, your last shot and moving. I think that saved a lot of time for me, especially transitioning from law enforcement to competitive shooting, where we're not always, our gun isn't always up on target. So, because we don't know where the target is, where in a planned out stage, you kind of know where the targets are. So when we're working a threshold, say clearing a house, we have to scan the whole room. And so if we're, say, working a threshold like slicing a pie or something like that, deliberate, we're taking a little bit of a time and then we're scanning that room, where in a USPSA or IDPS stage, we know where the targets are. So that's where it kind of transitions a little differently.
I would agree with that.
I think that's where that was probably one of the biggest things for me going from law enforcement to competitive shooting, especially USPSA, where you don't have to be behind cover. You just work it how you see it. So that
Sam, I have a question for you, actually.
Yeah.
Do you mind?
Yeah, go ahead.
Do you guys ever practice any direct to threat room clearing stuff?
Like dynamic?
Yeah, dynamic entry. You know what's happening. You know where he or she is.
Yeah, so like direct action, hostage rescue stuff.
Right.
Active shooter a lot of time is similar. So yeah, we do scenario specific, or based on what intel we have. Yeah, that might be an option. Most of our stuff is deliberate CQB that we do, and what I teach a lot is deliberate. But there is a time and place for dynamic entry, absolutely.
So that was the note. Tim and I shared notes at the end of both days, and I wrote in my notes about, like, I'm not sure I see the implication, and then I was like, wait, what about dynamic entry or direct to threat? Not that I do it, but I know somebody does.
Yeah, they're absolutely.
Okay.
Military teams, hostage rescue teams, SWAT teams on a hostage rescue. They're most likely they're not going to be deliberately clearing a house if they're doing a hostage rescue, especially if they have prior intel on where in the residence or structure the actual hostage taker and hostages are. If they know that beforehand, they're working direct, like you said, direct to threat. So yeah, that's where going from law enforcement to competitive shooting kind of probably hindered me a lot. So that was a that block of instruction was probably one of the best for me, and that probably shaved a lot of my time off. Like I said, 7 seconds.
That's awesome.
So let me ask you this, Sam. So being, the we'll call it more tactically proficient or tactically minded in your daily life, right? Of course, we've covered it. You compete USPSA, that great. That's a part-time gig. That's your hobby part, right? But you're a person that carries a gun for a living. And there is always kind of call it a debate that goes on between those that are tactically minded and those that are performance based. Do you feel that, given your, again, tactical daily life approach, do you feel that anything that you learned from a USPSA or performance based, competitive based instructor will get you, as they say, kilt in the streets?
Absolutely not. I think that I think that
win.
I think that I don't know if I can say it on your page or on your podcast. It's bullshit. Before the show started, we were talking about that LAPD cop that just got in that shooting, that female competitive shooter. Look at her confidence level behind the gun when she got in her shooting. I think
every shot she made was an implicit hit on the target too. There was no errant rounds fired. Everything was directed, and she achieved full success with that shooting.
So a quote that I always remembered, I went through the police academy actually 10 years ago last week. One of my firearms instructors in the academy, retired Secret Service guy, ran firearms for the Secret Service for years. He always said, when you shoot your gun in deadly force encounter, you have to make a conscious decision to press the trigger. And that is one thing that you can say, people who shoot competitively and become proficient at it. You can't just say anybody, because some people, if you've just been shooting competition for a day, doesn't, it's different than somebody who has been shooting it for a while, is well seasoned. They're more comfortable behind the gun, and when they have to use their gun, like look at her, nice and calm behind the gun, well aimed shots. And I think,
her weapons handling was fantastic given the situation.
Yeah,
she was. If there were any stutters, staggers, or missteps, it was her reacting to somebody that was physically, attacking her.
Yes,
trying to create that distance. But there was certainly palpable confidence when it came to manipulating that firearm.
Debrief of her shooting, but if you look at her split times, they slowed down drastically compared to what a competitive shooter would be shooting.
Sure. Absolutely.
So she didn't, and not even competitive, but take less experienced shooters in law enforcement, because we all know law enforcement are not, generally most law enforcement is not a shooter.
No.
A lot of cops don't even care for guns. But you see a lot of law enforcement shootings, when they get in shootings, their split times are probably like in the teens, because they're just cracking rounds off. Hers were probably, I don't know, there's not a shot timer on them, but 0.5 maybe. Easily 0.5, maybe even slower. Deliberate, well-aimed shots. And that's what, that experience behind the gun is what matters there.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. So if you could give any notes on improvement for Tim's class, what would they be?
I think I brought this up during the debrief. A little bit more work on fundamentals on the line, because now we had a class that a lot of our guys were pretty squared away. But you may have somebody in class that might not be a well squared away fundamental shooter. Definitely, that would probably be one of the only things I could say. And again, like what we talked about, offer an instructor development class, which you said is something.
I've got one.
Yeah.
It's like I said, it's a third day long. So it allows guys that are interested in like the teaching aspect of, and it's not just my curriculum, but the teaching aspect of like how to be a better diagnostician for your students in your in your classes with whatever curriculum that you're teaching. It basically it's 2 days to take my class so you understand, like, so like this is the material that I teach, that I feel is near and dear to my heart and is worth your investment. And then we take a third day where we work on just breaking down all of those finer nuances, which I know with Kent, I also know with Kite and with you as well. Like we kind of had a couple of those discussions about like the finer points of, like hand pressures on the gun, or, what it is, like invariably what I'm looking for as an educator when you're gripping the gun or when you're firing the gun, or what I'm watching from your eyes and those kind of things. So yeah, we get another 8-hour block, or sometimes 9 or even 10-hour block on a third day that is just about, like, as educators, these are the things that you should be looking for from your students so that you can better teach and better convey information to them.
Yeah, so, I remember we specifically had a short little conversation on grip and stuff like that with, pointing elbows out compared to, pointing them down to tighten their grip on more of a clamp.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, and then going on to day 2, we worked more on drills and target transitions and stuff. And then I liked how you had us run that stage again at the end of the day and it was hot that day.
Everybody I think was getting a pretty wore out by the,
by the end of the day, like, we're all smoked. And if I could have ran that stage the way I did at the end of the day, at the beginning of the day, because at the end of the day, on day 2, it was after shooting all day and being in the sun, I shaved another 2 seconds off of my initial time.
Easily. Yeah.
Yeah, it was. From the first time I ran it to the third time, 9 seconds it was. So that was like huge for me. Just being able to pull that much time off of a stage. And you didn't even run it until you were the last person to run it the whole class. So like nobody had influence off of you on like, oh, let's run it the way Tim ran it. And the way I ran it, you didn't run it the way I ran it.
Right.
So you ran it differently.
Yep.
So that was pretty good. I like that.
Awesome.
See, that's the trick. He's learning all the things not to do. So when he comes up, you gotta know these inside secrets, man.
I'll tell you the inside secrets. Tim had like 38 rounds of 45 left in his bag, and he was like, I need 32 of them for this fucking stage, so I can't miss nothing. P.S. The 6 boxes of 45 that you forgot you misplaced are in my safe now. So
sweet. You're welcome.
You can't even get ammo. You're stealing your ammo, Tim.
Yeah,
okay,
so, it's tough.
so time for the next hard-hitting question, Sam. After having absorbed so much just fantastic information and influence, dare I say, witty banter from Tim, our listeners are dying to know if you'll be transitioning over to a 1911 anytime soon.
No.
Blasphemy.
I don't like the grip angle.
Oh.
It's everyone's got their thing. He doesn't like the grip angle. They jam all the time.
Oh my God.
No, Tim, you're gonna hate coming on this show after this one, man. But we love you, buddy.
One gun I would like is that Chamber Customs Night Fighter. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I'd buy one of those.
Oh yeah.
That's awesome, man. That's awesome. So Sam, we really do appreciate having you on. We know it's coming up time for you to punch out or clock in. Punch out from here and clock in on the day job. But we really do appreciate your feedback, and we'll look forward to having you back on the show in the near future.
Yeah, definitely.
Sam,
I have another 10 minutes. So.
I promise I haven't forgotten. I'm still working on the cert, but I have a cert. It will be emailed to you immediately. The moment I get it, you will get it. I promise.
Take your time.
Okay.
So, well, with that, okay. So, Sam, if you've got a couple extra minutes, let's at least let you take the opportunity in the remaining time. Why don't you take a second, talk about Evolution Training Solutions, talk about your company, and give your stump speech, man. Tell the folks out there who you are and where they can find you.
All right. Well, I started my company back in 2015. Basically, to be honest with you, I haven't been shooting a whole long time. I went to the police academy back in 2010, and I had a Glock before that, but I sucked. I wasn't really a big shooter with pistols. Rifles, yeah. I've been shooting rifles and hunting since I'm probably 7 or 8. But pistols wasn't really my strong spot. So in the academy, and even in the academy, I wasn't an exceptional shooter. I was average. But going through the academy, I was like, I'd like to be an instructor someday. You know, I like teaching. I'm also an academy instructor now. I teach firearms at the academy. I'm one of the leads at my academy. So about a year, actually, I don't think I was on the job a year. I went through my first instructor school. So went to an NTOA tactical carbine instructor school that was hosted kind of locally. And then from there on, it was like every course I could take, I took. So in 10 years, I documented over 3,500 hours of training. So kind of hit it pretty hard. I probably have a lot more money saved up if I didn't do that. Most of it I pay for on my own. So actually about 90% of it's on my own. So 2015, I started my LLC while working night shift with my partner, and I did it online through the state's website, filed everything online, and like a week later I had an LLC. And he's like, "You just did all that online?" I'm like, "Yep, I own a company now." So
the land of opportunity, I tell you.
Yeah, my first course was like 2 months after I started my company. I did a contract active shooter course for state, local, and federal law enforcement, and then got into doing more firearm stuff from there. I kind of did it on the side up until this year. Actually, I still do it on the side, but I did it like here and there. This year, I really started to focus on wanting to do more classes. I have another 12 years left to retire. So hopefully by the time I retire, I'll have something that I could do like Tim and teach full time from there. So I run a firearms program through my city for all our officers. So between there, the academy, and my company, I'm kind of
You never sleep.
Yeah, I never sleep.
I feel you, bro.
Like you, Tim, COVID kind of hit me bad this year. I had a lot of classes scheduled. Had to cancel, I think, like 4 classes in a month. Most of them were pretty booked or sold out. Some were overbooked. And then now that PA is still kind of pretty restricted, and they just shut a lot of stuff just shut down again. So they're starting to slowly come back. I think people are still kind of leery about signing up for classes because of everything going on. So we're getting like more spikes and stuff like that. But hopefully pick up. Got a couple coming up on the website. If you look up my Instagram, evolution_training_solutions, you find a website on there. Website's evolutionordnance.org. Training is listed on there. You can see different classes. And if there's anything on the website anybody wants, I do have other classes that I have curriculum for that aren't listed on the website. There's also a couple on there that are now updated and have become longer courses. Some stuff has changed, but for the most part, most of the stuff's on the website. Between firearms, TACMED stuff, I'm also an EMT. I serve as the TACMED for my task force for warrant services and stuff like that. So we have some TACMED, firearms, active shooter, and CQB type stuff. And also some instructor level, red dot instructor, and some intro red dot class, a 2-day red dot, which is basically what I run for agency guys. And then I have an instructor level class too. So
Awesome.
So real quick, if y'all are in central Pennsylvania and you'd like to make a drive about an hour north with me, you will find me on the line listening to Sam. So let's do it. If you're one of my students, we got to get up there. We got to go see this dude. So endorsement from the local competitors, right? Like, fuck that shit. I'm going to be on the line listening to you and not working for a change. I can't wait.
There for everyone.
Hell yeah, dude. Hell yeah.
I wouldn't be wearing the shirt if I didn't believe that wholeheartedly.
Hell yeah, man. Sam's real squared away, and like most of the people that are worth listening to, pretty fucking humble. So let's all go see him and support him.
Awesome.
I wouldn't be where I'm at without having the opportunities to train with people like Tim, Scott Jedlinski, Will Petty, among others. And I could say having other people in class with you that are really squared away is probably one of the biggest things. It's the people you train around that help you become better. I could say I took a class last year, a red dot instructor, and Mike Green from Green Ops. We paired up together, and I never even knew who Mike was.
Oh, I love Mike.
Never heard of him before it. He sat next to me in class, and it came to pairing up. We looked at each other like, "Hey, you want to be a partner?" Okay. Got on the line. Guy can shoot, man. And then we just pushed each other throughout the whole class. Great shooter. And I could say I was actually proud of myself because he's a master level USPSA shooter. And we're running some drills were kind of competitive based, timed, movement, all that. And I was running right there with him. There was actually one drill we actually shot the exact same time on. So just shooting around guys like that help you push and become better yourself is just like takes you to that next level. So
awesome.
Well, we really appreciate your time and your willingness to come on here and share tonight, dude. You'll be hearing from me real soon, whether you want to or not. I'm very sorry in advance.
Send some stuff up to you. I'll come up there. You're only hour and a half. Yeah,
dude. Absolutely. We can help each other a lot. So let's do that.
Who else do you have coming up to your place?
Stay tuned for announcements.
Okay.
You'll be on the list for sure. I promise you. You'll be on the reserve spot list. You and Phil will get notified when stuff's. And you, Kite.
Let's get Phil on here sometime.
He's already been.
Oh, has he?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. The people that don't know, Phil Groff from Vigor Training, another PA guy. I took Phil's class. I think it was either last year or the year before. I think it was last year. And me and Phil have been pretty good friends since then. We talk probably weekly. Took a couple classes together as students. Another amazing shooter. He worked with Mike Seeklander for a couple of years at U.S. Shooting Academy, and then started his own thing. And I think he's in OKC this week teaching. But
I know Mike Seeklander very well because, as I've announced kind of throughout my classes too, I'm kind of a product and prodigy of Mike as well. So
yeah, so Phil's a great instructor. I think I have that book.
Yes.
Pretty close, right? Like right there.
Yeah.
He's definitely another instructor that you'll see coming up, be pretty big in the next couple of years, I'd say. So
awesome.
Keep an eye out for him.
Yeah, Phil's killing it for sure. Anyway, thanks for coming on, bro.
Appreciate I'm going to hop off. I have to go get ready for work.
Sam, I really appreciate you being here. Thank you so much for all the comments.
Kite, talk to you.
Later, buddy.
Thanks for having me on.
Stay safe, man.
Take care.
TJ, I love how you and I are on the same page. We said the same shit at the exact same time.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's okay. I'll dub you out.
Now that we got rid of the fuzz, we can have some fun, right? Because the cops are gone. We can break out the smoky and the drinky. It'll be fine. So, Kite, dude, same question. Why don't you break down the weekend from your perspective? Tell us what you thought.
Sure. I think coming into the class, the only information I had about it was from Josh. He goes by Yoshimoto Spotter Up. Yeah, Josh Shaw, because he was with me in Virginia, right?
Yeah.
And so when Fisher said to see Tim Herron, it's like, oh, I went to a practical performance class, and Josh is I love him, right? He's just
Josh
he's good people.
He is.
Yeah, he's good people. So he kind of said, a lot of where he kind of agreed, right? Like you need to go there because of everything you currently have, as a whole package. You're going to get quite a lot of it. So I knew it had a USPSA sort of orientation, right? So just as Sam said, right, you walk into the class, right, and there's like a USPSA stage, and you go, oh. Okay, it's like a lot of targets. Like, how do you where do I start? Like, how do I move? What do I do with these things? And that I think there's something profound about that though, because I think if you were to ask certain people who haven't come into the competitive sports, what coming to a class where they see that does to you, it's kind of intimidating, right? It's like, oh my gosh, how do I navigate this? It seems very complicated, right? I think that's a good thing to come into the class that way, only to have that entire stage demystified over the course of 2 days. I took down a lot of my own notes sort of after the fact, and so like, Sam said, we shoot the stage freestyle as you see the targets, as you decide to move, you shoot them, right? And then we got feedback afterwards, right? From Tim, here's what you did right. And I loved his focus on kind of having that kind of mentality as to identifying what you did right. And you find a lot of people, I think we all have this to varying degrees, right? It's always what I did wrong. And, it's like every time I get in front of a stage and I have to give a talk at work, when I'm done, I beat myself up. Like, and then other people come to me and say, oh, gee, that was really good, dude. I really love what I'm like, you thought that? Like, this isn't how I felt afterwards. I think it's a very human thing to do that, right? So we got feedback and I go, oh, okay, this is really good. Someone's actually looking at what I'm doing and evaluating me, and that was sort of my, the first kind of inkling I had to the kind of instructor Tim is, right? It's like, really? You could see all of that? That to me is just incredible. And so day one, we took portions of that stage. We did a throttle control drill. That I was, kind of stood out to me in terms of understanding how to do transitions visually, right? It's one thing to have heard these things academically, but when somebody can actually translate that to, well, here's a drill, we're going to break down a component skill set, and here's why we're doing what we're doing, right? It's not just, this is a drill, shoot it, right? Here's the why. Here's what you ought to be getting out of this, right? What should I be seeing? How should I be seeing? That's where I am as a shooter. I kind of want to get down into the why, and at least I came into the class knowing that shooting for me had become a very visual thing. There's so much about shooting that's about seeing, and so the throttle drill was a good one. Transitions were a good one. And then I go, oh, wait a minute. Even before Tim made the obvious, right? Like, oh, shit, this stuff applies to what we just did this morning, and oh, my word, I think we get to shoot this a second time and I get to apply in real time, effectively, right? What I'm learning, back, on the stage. And so I have so much I want to say about just you, Tim, and the class and that whole concept of doing that, because in a way, Zoltan and I were talking at the end of the day too, driving home, like literally, right? Because I left and then he got on the road, and we talked for a while about you, just in terms of we've never seen anything like this before, right? Legit. I mean, like in some ways, it was life changing. I really mean that. That's not, one thing I'm not given to is flattery, because I feel it's disingenuous, right? And while I was raised to only find positive things to say about people or whatever, for real, it was life changing in a way, right? So, like I said, through the course of day one, I think when we shot the stage, I was somewhere in the neighborhood of 32, 33 seconds overall, navigating everything and doing what I did. And then we got to shoot it I guess early in the early portions of day 2, I think.
Uh-huh.
And I ended up coming in about 23 and change. And I'm like, and I thought, well, so you're telling me that just doing this again and applying what little we've learned so far can make such a difference, and I said, Ken being sort of behind me when I had to make a turn, notwithstanding, when I shot it day 1, I could tell, like, it's okay, dude. Like I said, that did not bother me at all, because, over the course of the day, I'm like, oh my gosh, if I could do this again, I suspect I could do it faster. Or let me take that back. I suspect I could do it sooner. Right.
Yes.
This is one of my big takeaways from the weekend. I could do it sooner. And so 23 seconds, I go, oh, okay. So I had a recurring theme for the weekend, which is, a plan. I'm really echoing Tim here. A plan executed at a high level. Let's call it a mediocre plan. Is better than an excellent plan executed poorly. It's something Tim said a lot throughout the course of the weekend. And so right there alone, I said, okay, I can actually walk into a level 1 match now, right? And I'm not intimidated by what I'm looking at. It's nothing more than a series of component things that I can group together. And when you add them in totality, you have a stage. I don't know how other people processed it, but for me, USPSA, the reason I started in IDPA was because, quite honestly, okay, it was just less intimidating. See, you're telling me how to shoot the stage. It's prescriptive, right?
Right.
And I've shot a couple of matches and I can come in 3rd place, but I realized I got to benchmark myself against some better shooters. And nothing against IDPA, it's its own thing, right? But I think that one primary takeaway for me from that class was I wanted to come out of that class saying, can I now walk to a level 1 match and I feel confident? I don't feel like I'm, trying to, oh, hey, what did they do? Maybe I should shoot the stage that way. The mental game, coming up with my own plan, and executing my own plan. So many things about who I was when I came to the class dictated what I took away from it, and so over the course of this talk, we can go to, I made my own notes, we can talk about specific drills we did. I have specific things I took away from each one. Something Sam said earlier that was a big takeaway from the weekend for guys like us is, we're very used to coming out of the combative side of the house with the gun up to us, meaning effectively low ready. And so you're moving around with the gun in the low ready. But, it's Tim saying, no, wait a minute, you can be here, and move here such that as soon as you see what you need to see, you're ready to shoot sooner. And something as seemingly small as that makes such a big difference,
You see gun up. You see that?
I see that.
That's the first note. Gun up. That's the first thing I wrote in my damn notes. And by the way, I noticed you taking notes as diligently as I was, and I'd love to pick your brain on that shit, because I literally handed Tim. I was like, yo, my code's XYZ. Here's my shit. Go read my notes. And I let him sit at my table and read mine. So let's see some of your notes. Let's go into this.
Yeah, I mean, Zoltan took notes in real time. I don't know anybody who took more notes than Zoltan in class, because he's literally.
I don't know how he wasn't able to shoot due to writer's cramp.
I know.
Because it was fabulous to have such hungry shooters in the class. And I'm going to take away your time on that at all, Kide. But that was what really stood out to me, was like everybody was just like, every time that I started speaking about something that really rang true to them, immediately everybody was like, hold that thought for a second, and they're grabbing the phones or they're grabbing notepads or pens and just starting to write things down. And that is so awesome for me to see, like I said, as an educator, that it's like, I'm reaching these guys. I'm really reaching these guys, and it was great though. And not only that, to be able to reach you, but then to be able to put my knowledge or my conveyance of information to the test. It's not just like, okay, I'm going to just follow you blindly, and you said these things and I'm going to do these things. But like, that's one of the main reasons and the strategies of having you just shoot the stage again, but not shoot the stage over and over and over and over again. Right. I want it to be like, okay, great. I've taken these 3 or 4 things now. I want to apply those things. And if I apply those things, like Tim is teaching, is he putting his money where his mouth is? Am I really going to see the product of what it is, of the value of what he's teaching? Or am I going to make 1,000 other mistakes? And to me, that's super important. So to see you guys not only just take the notes and absorb the information, but also then to like prove me right or prove me wrong, because that makes me a better, like I said, a better educator. Like if I'm like, okay, this is the way to do it, or this is what I feel is my way to do it, you know, and this is the best way I can convey that information to you. And then you perform it, but don't find success in it. That means that the information I'm teaching is bad. And I don't want that. I definitely don't want to share bad information. So yeah, to seeing you guys taking the notes and having these humongous notepads or, you know, digital notepads on your phones and things like that of just page after page of thing is to me that makes me feel like I'm doing I'm hoping I'm doing a pretty bang up job of being a teacher.
Absolutely. Absolutely. You know, and so I think, you know, we've all taken enough classes where, you know, you hear it said all the time, you know, here are a series of things where as instructors looking to give you as students in terms of a pedagogy, right? Just try it our way. And if you don't see that it works for you, you can drop it. I've heard that for years. Yours was the first class where I got to see in real time, you know, not just try it my way, but you get to see in class, you know. I mean, the short timer and the times, that thing is objective. It's no respecter of persons, right? It doesn't lie, you know. And so when you can shave off time off of shooting a stage, and, you know, by doing these component things, you say, oh, your way works, you know. And so, and it's quite honestly, I'm going to echo something somebody said earlier, you know, like, when I've only been doing this since 2015. So yeah, maybe I haven't picked up a lot of training scars like people talk about. I don't know. I just know that one thing I've always had, both when I was in college studying electrical engineering, I apply the same thing to shooting, is I'm very cerebral about it, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's a thinking man's game, they say, right? And so for me, I don't have any allegiance to a way. If it works and I can demonstrate on demand that it works, I'm sold. You know, I don't have, and then there's too many, I don't know, people have a lot of very odd kind of affinities for certain things they insist on holding on to, even if they don't work, you know. And it's like, dude, well, but why? You know, you've done it this way for so long, but it's not working though, you know. And so I wanted to just kind of echo a lot of what Tim was saying there, that, like, you know, the instruction that's provided, you get to find it in real time, you know, the benefits of it. So but one thing that happened in, I think, you know, there's so much of the shooting side that we can talk about. Like I said, and I have some specifics I'll offer, but something that happened that I when I knew I was going to be on this podcast, I wanted to just say, in all humility, was, you know, we had another shooter in the class that I guess was having some difficulty, and he was getting very frustrated. And for the life of me, I don't think I have ever. I mean, you were trying to talk an individual into the idea of, don't give up, right? I'm not giving up on you. Hang in there. We're going to work through the issue. And you're doing this at the time in the class where most of the classes I've been to are winding down already. You know, it's like that time the class is coming to a close, you know, what's for dinner. And that's when you're trying to convince the gentleman not to quit on himself,
Mm-hmm.
you know. And dude, that, again, from the bottom of my heart, I have never seen anything like that before. Zoltan and I were just talking about this. Like, who the hell is this guy? Like, you give the title of instructor a whole new level, dude. Like, and if you haven't been told this before, I'm telling you now. I mean, it's life changing. Like, I've never seen anything like. Again, there are a lot of guys that are instructors I've seen. They're great. They're awesome in their own way. You know, I'm not taking anything away from anybody, but I am saying I have never seen that before. And the level of personal ownership, you know, of your instruction to students, I have never seen anything like that before.
Kite,
you know,
Kite, do you want to hear something really cool?
yeah, sure.
You know who I saw at the USPSA match 6 days after Tim's class?
Who did you see?
Our man, the guy you're talking about right now.
Oh, really? Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Yeah.
He and his boy came back out and competed, and he did very well. In the ways that you're talking about anyway. He didn't give up.
Yes.
He put in – I have a soft spot for people who have challenges and don't give up on them, right? Mm-hmm. And he shot a USPSA match in 101-degree heat, and he walked by me because we were on different squads, and he gave me the most sincere of fist bumps. and gave me those like locked eyes and was like, "Yeah, we're doing this." And I couldn't tell you. I was like, "Man, oh man, look at my man over here. He's not giving up on this stuff." And honestly, I was able to like, "Hey, dude, you need to chill for a minute. This is getting bad. This is getting a little dangerous." I've never seen anybody approach it the way Tim did, as far as when I cued Tim in for a second and said, "Hey, man, we may or may not have a thing to deal with here." Tim was on it like white on rice, and he and I talked about it afterwards, obviously, but it was he didn't say "fuck this shooting shit, I'm gonna go play golf." He showed back up to USPSA 4 or 5 or 6 days later, and him and his boy did real well, and it's always cool to see parents and kids doing stuff like this together anyway, and to see a guy go through some stuff like that and come out on the other side better for it. All the respect in the world, man. And Tim, that was all you, dude.
I appreciate that. I don't even know what to say.
Yeah, life changing. I'm telling you. It's almost like I went into one expectation. I came out with another one. So like I said, the inspiration I left with was pretty awesome. Never seen anything like it before. You have teachers in college or high school or whatever that change the course of your life. As a student, to see that in the world we live in the shooting world, it's like, wow, that's something else, man. So I'm telling you, you're setting a new standard, dude. And I just want to say I really appreciate it. Again, I'm being very, very sincere. I'm not giving a flattery. I'm just.
I appreciate that. I didn't know it had that kind of effect on somebody, and yeah. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, man.
Well, dude, you've heard us say it before. You've listened to other episodes. There are instructors, and then there are teachers. Yeah. Anybody can be an instructor. It takes a special person to be a teacher. So, and I think, just sadly, I missed this class because, it was in Pennsylvania, and none of you assholes come down to Tennessee.
I'm coming to Huntsville.
Okay, that's not far.
You're in Nashville, right?
Just south of it. I'm about an hour outside of Huntsville.
Wait. This is going to go the same way Jedi did. When are you going to Knoxville?
I'm going to Huntsville in
Alabama. Yep.
In September, October.
Right. Cool. If my passport is good in Alabama, I'm coming to Alabama to take Tim's class, which TJ means that you have to come with me. So there you go.
All right, fine.
October 24th and 25th.
There we go.
Look, I'm going to put it on my calendar right now.
It's a tax write-off, motherfucker. We're doing this. Anyway, moving on.
Okay. Anyway, I'm going to tell you right now, Kite, even hearing this coming from me, I mean, I am a Tim, but I'm not that Tim. It's really awesome to hear that kind of that kind of feedback and that kind of a review on not just you're not gloating over, oh, I shaved X amount of time or I got my splits down this much faster. You're not talking about the overall performance improvements that you got from it. You're talking about the impact that Tim had on your life. And dude, that speaks to guys like me, that speaks volumes. Because like you, I too am very cerebral. And at least I try to be. I have no idea what pedagogy means. But the feedback, the nature of the feedback that you're giving speaks volumes. And let it be a message to those that are listening to this. Kent and I frequently get asked, how do I find a good instructor? What do we look for in an instructor?
Yep.
This right here is what you look for in an instructor and what you look for in a teacher.
Yeah, man. Absolutely.
It's that simple. So there you have it. So what else we got, Kent?
Well, I wanted to ask Kite specifically some stuff about, and Sam already answered it from his side of things, but Kite and I have come at the training thing from not too far off a place, right? we've been the tactical Timothys, right? We've been the defensive shooter guys that have come into competitive shooting later. What percentage, if you had to put a percentage on the stuff that we got from Tim, what percentage would you say has an honest to God application in everyday defensive shooting?
Everything. Okay.
Exactly. Yeah.
Everything. Because there's some things that go without saying. Okay. We understand that visual noise in the context of a match isn't cover and concealment. That need not be said. Okay. So they're like folks in our world. I somewhat love them, but I don't usually like calling out people or giving names, but they're in Camden, Tennessee. There's a lot of horse shit they say about shooting matches and competitive shooters. I told you guys when I was with you, one of my first early pistol classes was at Racheal Tactical, right? And by and large, again, good company in terms of Jared and whatnot. I don't slander anybody. I just don't do that, But I will say, but I want to say things to, at least in-house stuff with honesty, okay? And this is just my honest opinion about it. I something rubbed me the wrong way with. It's one thing to say, hey, that stuff will get you killed in the street, okay? But to go on and on and on over the course of the day of poking fun at people who shoot matches. And at the time, I knew nothing about. I'm like, what's this USPSA stuff you keep, bad mouthing and whatnot? A couple years later, looking back, that was profoundly misguided. A lot of the stuff there was profoundly. And knowing what I saw when I went to that class and what I know now, because you don't know what you don't know at the time. There are places I wish I never spent my money. I mean, it's horse shit. What they were doing actually, and so again, those kind of companies have their place in the world, I guess. But everything is, profoundly so. Okay, profoundly so.
Yeah,
for goodness sakes, look, I'll show you this. Okay, this is my rig. I'm ready to go. Okay.
Yes.
Hell yeah. I will say simply this. There are 6 training companies in Pennsylvania that Green Mountain Defense competes with and will recommend. And I'm going to leave it right there. I'm not going to slander anybody, but Sam, Phil, Ashton, Annette, I give you a list of people besides me around me that you should go train with. So I'm just going to politely leave that right there. Because if I get more whiskey in me, I might not politely leave that right there. But
I'll be honest with you. And this happens not even just from a statewide thing. And Kent and I talked about this both after, on Saturday evening as well, sitting at home, sharing a beer and a cocktail, as well as even on Sunday evening too. Life, and I've even mentioned this even like throughout the course of the class, like to students, like life's too short.
Yeah.
To be slanderous to other people.
Yep.
or to badmouth or degrade somebody else's training company. I know who I would absolutely in a heartbeat recommend. I know Kite was sent to me by one of those gentlemen. Steve Fisher, like I said, is like my big brother within the training environment. Steve is the guy that kind of helped lead me in and guide me into the industry. I believe wholeheartedly in everything that he teaches. I love his curriculum. I love his charisma, even though he kind of comes off curmudgeonly on, sometimes online. He's not. And anybody that's ever had the opportunity to train with Steve would also tell you the same thing. He's a very, very loving and a very, very dear, one of my closest friends. But at the same time, if you really stop to think about it, like we're competing for the same market share, but there's, 2 billion people or something like that throughout the entire United States. There's plenty of business opportunity to go around.
Yep. And
what he's teaching, even if it was the exact same thing I'm teaching, is not the same, right? Like his level and attention to detail is completely different than mine. And I would recommend him in a heartbeat. And Kent and I know too, Scott Jedlinski from Modern Samurai Project. Scott and I kind of got into this game together at the same time, and I've got absolutely nothing but great things to say about Scott. He specializes in Red Dot probably better than anybody I've ever met in my life. And again, like his attention to his students, his attention to his class and his curriculum. I mean, I couldn't recommend that guy fast enough to somebody that was like, okay, Tim, where do I go from here? If I was the first person that you saw, where do I go from here? Man, have I got a list of people for you? Like, dude, this ain't about me.
Yep.
This is, and everything that I'm teaching is not derived from like, hey, I've got all the super secrets, squirrel ninja stuff. Like, man, I've reinvented the wheel. Hail to the no. I have been influenced by many, many people that I've considered either just, either mentors or friends or literally what I consider family to me. And we share information all the time. And that's how we all get better. And that's how we build the community up. That's how we build the industry to become better and hold each other to higher standards. And so, I mean, like I said, life's too short.
Yeah, man.
Life's entirely too short, man. And business is entirely too good to be hammering on somebody else's business when I know who I will absolutely, recommend within a heartbeat. And I know who, maybe I'll guide you a little bit away from that person simply because they don't have, and it's not maybe that they're teaching. Maybe sometimes their values are a little questionable. Maybe their ethics are a little questionable.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, man. You know what? From the perspective of the host and, the new young baby instructor guy in the room, right? Like,
I'll tell you right now, you're no baby instructor. Stop it.
Well, in the industry, as far as like people that have been in the around, what I want to say is this: a lot of you folks have sat at my dining room table, right? I don't know what else I could say about a person. Yeah. If I'm gonna bring you around my kid and my wife, that's who I'm recommending. Like, so
I appreciate that.
You know what I mean? Like, I have very little time for any level of. If I had to wonder for half a second about like, is Soph gonna beat this guy's head in with a tire iron? Because it's not that I'm afraid for her; it's that I'm afraid for the rest of the planet, right? Like,
it's a valid concern.
Right, I mean, for reals, right? Think of the people that the shooting community have brought to my family and my life. My best friend in the whole world and I are now on a podcast together because the shooting community brought him into my family.
That's cool.
What the fuck else can I say? I don't even have any. There's no need to say words at that point. There's no other thing I can say about that. So
and I feel the same way. I mean, like getting the opportunity to be, I guess kind of considered, a national level instructor, a national level trainer. I mean, like getting to spend weekends with so many quality human beings. It just, I mean, like we had dinner on Saturday evening, and I mean, I must have asked Kent like 15 times, like, hey, where's Kite at? Hey, where's Zoltan at? Hey, where are these guys at? Like, it was so great. I mean, I was excited to be that kindergartner on the first day of school to see all of the cool kids coming to see, coming just even to break bread or to share a drink or to share, and I consider every student, seriously, anybody that's ever taken an opportunity to invest even, 48 hours of their life to come and train with me, dude, they're family. Sorry, whether you like it or not, you're stuck with me now. Even if I become the old, like, Uncle Joe with dementia 35 years from now, you're stuck with me. Sorry.
Perfect.
I mean, there's worse things to be stuck with. Just saying. So real quick, we do have a couple of questions from the chat that I wanted to get to. So both are for you, Tim. So Landon asks, actually, they're both from Landon. So Landon asks, Tim, are you using the competitive stage to vet individual skill sets, or is it being used to preset and apply competition ideas towards the defensive application?
Man, what a fantastic question.
Yeah,
So,
don't say it too loud. It'll go to his head. Landon has some pretty good questions from time to time.
I read that question as we were kind of just as I was looking through the comments here too, just kind of watching everything pop up. And Landon, to answer your question, it's kind of both actually. So it really depends on what a student is coming to me regarding. So somebody like Dylan, the young junior shooter that we had in the class, the kid with the fucking beard of a 40-year-old, and he was 17 years old. What a fantastic young man too. But I mean, so like obviously Dylan's probably not really tiptoeing or dipping a toe in the water as far as combatives or from a defensive standpoint, and wants to get better from a competitive background or a competitive standpoint. So obviously, like my goals for Dylan are going to be a little bit different than maybe what my goals are specifically for Kite or what my goals specifically are for Kent, because I want to make and I want to tailor the level of instruction to what they most need. And not just what they most need, and that's why I ask questions at the beginning of class. What is it? What are you here for? I mean, if somebody said, "Man, I've never tried competition shooting before, and I just want to get better running around like a crazy person with a gun in my hand," awesome, I can help with that. If Kite was to have come up to me and said, "Well, the reason I'm here is because I'm more of a combatives, practitioner of handling with the firearm, and I would just like to be better motivated or to help myself or improve myself better dynamically with being able to handle a pistol in more movement or dynamic situations." I got you, boo. I can fix that. I can help with that. Kent, on the other hand, is kind of the same way. Kent's more of a combatives and defensive type of instructor as well as shooter. I know that about Kent. I've got enough time to be able, to really understand Kent's interests and what shooting feels to him. So you know what? Maybe I need to use some terminology that works a little bit differently with those students that rings true with what it is that they're really wanting to achieve within a class versus just, hey man, so hit factor wise or time wise or points wise, right? And not just making it about the competitive aspect of it, but making it all about the performance aspect of shooting. And just like you asked Kite, is there any differences or any variances in the level between competitive shooting and defensive minded shooting, right? And that's been the biggest barrier I've been trying to break down in my short 10-year career as a not only a competitor but also as an industry professional, is like there are no barriers, right? Shooting is shooting. Shooting at a high rate of speed is still shooting at a high rate of speed, regardless of whether it's in a competitive aspect or competitive environment or whether it's from the defensive minded side of the house. So, but for me, utilizing the stage, it does get it, like the notes I take on a student, and I don't have my book. Everything's still locked up because I just got home yesterday, but like I would be able to show you the notes that I take on every single student. And sometimes it's just a single, 3 or 4 little things that bring, that kind of spark interest in my mind. Like, okay, this is about Kite. So when I say gun up, like I'll know, okay, gun up. So when it comes time to talk to Kite, this is what I'm going to talk about because these are the things that I remember about Kite's run. So I'm using those things though as a means of being able to like tailor the program to each individual shooter's needs. So again, I hope that of all 12 or 13 students that we had in the class last weekend, that they see that the curriculum isn't built around just, like I said, rote repetitive drills. I want it to reflect to each individual shooter's strengths and weaknesses so that I can make that individual shooter the best shooter I possibly can in the I would like to say a 16-hour class. It was probably more about a 20 hours worth of training over 2 days. So in the 20 hours that I get to spend with Kent or with Kite or with Paul or Dylan or Zoltan or any of these other shooters, these fantastic students I had in the class, I want them to literally come out of the class and be like, oh my God. Now granted, am I expecting them to be like Kite and say that was life-changing? no. And from the bottom of my heart, KT, thank you so much. I mean, you have no idea the effect that has on me, like hearing a student say that about me. But at the same time, like, I want you to leave there with just such a vast understanding of, like, I now know what having the gun up ready to fire means now. Or I now know what rolling my shoulder into a strong hand or rolling my shoulder into a support hand position means to my shooting. You know?
So real quick, I want to give you something. I think I told you this in person, but firstly, for you to break a group in half and, you know, be like, yo, you want to run this half of the team real quick? It's kind of like Bill Belichick being like, hey, can you not fuck up half the Patriots for 20 seconds? Like, so there is that. But you know how it goes, right? You're in host mode, and the entire time you're working, right? You're always, I want this to be the best experience for everybody else, right? And you and I did that, like, you know, Titanic moment where we locked eyes, and you're like, you and me, right? You and me. And I was like, oh shit, what is this going to be? And he was teaching a drill about having the dot locked on the threshold. Listen to me talking all tactical, and moving past the barrels and shooting the minute the dot or the sights align with something on the target, part of the A zone, right?
Mm-hmm.
And Tim goes, all right, dude, you and me. So he has me do it like 1 or 2 times, and he looks me in the face, TJ, and you'll love this. He goes, make that motherfucker pay for even being in the hallway.
That's my kind of message right there.
Look at TJ. TJ is like, oh, we gonna get that bastard, right? And he's like, yo, do that. Beep, bang, and he's like, okay, maybe a little less of that. Like, holy shit.
Not at all. I needed to find a way, right,
Yeah.
to convey the importance of what I was trying to get you to do. To get you to do it. Because it's one thing to talk about, like, points in time, right?
This is my point. Yeah.
It's another thing, though, to, like, somebody that is from a combative side of the house to be like, okay, listen. So, you know, if it's between you and your opponent, and that opponent might have the upper hand against you, and not only you, but that beautiful brand new boy that you've got at home, and that wonderful wife that cooks you meals every single night, what are you going to do? You know,
dude, you just turned it back up to like 10 right there. Like, don't even go there. I'll burn the whole house down.
Can't take another drink.
Yeah. Yeah, dude. So but that's exactly what he did. He appealed to my, like, yo, make that motherfucker pay for even being here. And I was like, oh, well, we can do that.
Oh,
right?
That's how it's going to be.
To quickly get back on Landon's point there. I know he wrote on there, being used to preset and apply competitive ideas toward the defensive application. And correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm hoping that I was able to convey that information, like having the gun up ready to fire.
Yeah.
And what that truly means, you know, from a law enforcement perspective. And I actually apply this curriculum to closed enrollment classes for LE, for law enforcement classes as well. And I do kind of change this shift just a little bit. And I keep it fun and lighthearted, because if everything's all about, like, you know, shoot an opponent in the face and everything is just tactically minded, people, you know, like, man, you guys are hearing that shit all the time. So sometimes it's fun to just, like, man, we're going to talk about points and speed, and we're going to talk about having fun, and, you know, but again, some of those important things, like having the gun up aimed through something, ready to make a decision because you're prepared, right? Versus, like, being proactively prepared to make a decision behind the pistol versus being reactive in your way, in your strategy, in your way of thinking, you know? And I think, and Kite kind of hit the nail on the head, you know, like having the gun up here, kind of in that upper high ready, isn't necessarily ready. And I don't know, whoever created that term is like, that's a high ready. That's not high ready. That's that's high reactive is what that is. So it's like, oh my God, I see a threat, and it's still going to take me 3 to 4 tenths of a second to position the gun out, right, or present the pistol out to a target, and then make another 2 to 3 tenths of a second decision based on everything that's going on in my brain, right? Or whether or not, okay, that threat has a firearm, or that threat has a knife, or that threat is X amount of time away from me, or that threat is going towards a family member or another loved one, right? And all of these calculations are happening at the same time that you're not only reacting to that threat, but then making the split decision whether or not I need to focus a round or 2 or 3 of fire onto that threat to subdue that, right? And that comes kind of from the competitive component of things of like, dude, I am no way, shape, or form prepared to actually engage a target if I'm not behind the sights aiming through, ready to engage a target with simply placing my finger inside the trigger guard and applying pressure to the trigger, right? And so everybody talks about that all the time. Like, well, we're always taught not to point a gun at anything we're not willing to destroy. Really? So the moment that you took your gun out of your nightstand or you pulled the gun out of your holster to engage a situation that required the use of a firearm, you've already made the decision to point that firearm at something that you were potentially willing to destroy. The difference is whether or not you placed your finger actively on the trigger and applying pressure to the rear of that trigger to make that gun go bang to destroy what it is you're pointing the gun at. Why on earth would I want to have the gun back here where I cannot effectively utilize the pistol in all of its aspects and advantages by holding it back here when I could enter a situation with the pistol ready to make a decision 3 to 4 tenths of a second faster?
So what's killing me about this?
Competitive aspect, and flip the script and use it in a combatives aspect.
What's really got me on this one is sometimes a third-party perspective is all you need. So you had me at it's faster, right? Like clearly it's faster. There's no, the beeper button box doesn't lie, right? It is in fact faster. And, that whole, well, in certain circumstances, we may or may not know what our threat looks like or who our threat is, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I'm not sure if I can apply that in every possible position because that's the filter we run this shit through, right? From quote unquote our side of the house, which is really just one big house with like 2 different bathrooms in it. So I'm stopped. Like I'm really trying to get rid of that whole like one side of the house or the other vernacular and just trying as much as I can to merge the 2 things. So I was talking to Soph about it, and she just kind of looked at me and she goes, "Wait." I was like, "What?" She goes, "Our defensive plan is XYZ, right?" I said, "Yeah, it is." And she goes, "Well, him and I are back here, dude."
Yeah.
And I was like, "Well, fuck." And she just goes, "Him and I are where we're supposed to be, yeah?" I'm like, "Yeah." And she goes, "So if it's faster," and I'm like, "Oh God."
Sophie wasn't even in the class, man.
No, but that's how it goes because you think about it and you run it through. The problem with all this information is, and with all of us, we run all these things through whatever filter was previously applied to us, and that's our bias. Mm-hmm. But if anybody says they don't have a bias, that's bullshit. We run the things through the filters that were previously applied. So I totally got it, right? He was like, "What if you knew that dude was in the hallway? What would you do?" Fucking burn the hallway down with a flamethrower is what do you anything. What do you mean, what would I do? I'd do anything to get that guy out of the hallway. Clearly. Okay. So once we get past that fact, at least in my paradigm, or what the paradigm that matters to me the most, which is my family, where are they at? Well, they're all behind you, man. And it literally, so here's Kent dry firing this nonsense in his house at fucking midnight going, shit. The fucking gamer was right. Well, would you look at that, right?
Well, I mean, let's break it down. So let's talk about those 2 sides out. And I do want to get to MG's question too. Well, I mean, I think we can level this playing field really, really easily. What are the 2 biggest things or biggest topics that are discussed in the firearms community? Shooting and tactics.
Right.
Yeah.
You both teach shooting.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
Everything else is tactics. So yes, I just melted everyone's brain because performance and tactical are the same school.
No, they really are. It's just a matter of, and I genuinely don't know this. You know what I don't know is the quote unquote gamer guys, right? Did they come at it from the same place? Were they always told and shown like, hey, you know, those other dudes over there on the other side of that bay, I don't know about those guys. Or was it just us all along?
I honestly, I mean, well, in practical shooting, like USPSA or IPSC, IPSC was derived. I mean, it was invented by, you know, the grandfather, you know, or at this point in time, the great grandfather of defensive-minded shooters, though, you know, Colonel Jeff Cooper. You know, I mean, it's like if there was ever a more tactically or defensively minded shooter to ever walk the planet, it was Jeff Cooper.
Yep.
So why on earth was he the guy at the helm of developing what has now become, you know, the most popular the most popular means of employment with a firearm as sport, when it was derived directly as a result of how to become better as a defensive-minded pistol, you know, a pistolier, you know, and that's, you know, martial arts didn't start as a sport, right?
Nope.
That's a great point.
No, you're absolutely right. And I would even go so far. Yeah, like Kite, he's like, yeah, preach. So, I mean, look, I'm going to sum it up this way, and then we'll get to MG's question. In my observation, the people that sit on one side of the aisle, you know, the gamers versus the tactician, right? Gamers usually don't have an introduction, or call it a baptism, into the field of tactics.
I agree.
And people that focus strictly on tactics usually don't know enough about shooting. That's why they avoid sports or arenas that would challenge their shooting ability.
I agree.
You know what I'll say,
and that's where the divisiveness comes from.
Yeah,
dude.
Fortunately, though, I believe there's less divisiveness now on the tactical side of the house, or the combative side of the house, than there is from the competitive side of the house. I have a harder time breaking down walls or barriers from my competitive compadres than I do from my defensive friends. Honestly,
You know, I was just gonna say something similar. What I will say is that we all grow, right? We all learn from our mistakes and we grow from them.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a little embarrassed that I operated GMD for like 16 months without that mindset. But also super proud that I let go and, you know, went and found dudes and competed and did the IDPA and have done, you know, the USPSA and all this stuff. It's amazing to me that I ever even had the thought, although I never verbalized it, for a minute I had the thought of like, can these guys really help me? Yeah, dude. They can fucking help you. Jeff Gordon can drive a Honda Civic on the highway.
You're right.
Like I don't know what else to say. Like and for a hot minute, that mental gap was there for me, and I think it's partially because I got bored with tactical shooting classes, and partially because I had one of those Dunning-Kruger moments in myself where I looked around and went, that guy in that bay over there can shoot his pistol a lot faster than I can. There has to be a reason, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because his pistol looks a shitload a lot like mine does. You know, like, because it's easy to go, oh, well, that's one of them there STI fancy majigger rigs. It's another thing to look over at a guy and go, that's an RTF2 Glock 17 that looks like Gaston himself put it together. And I've never heard one of those go boom quite so quick. And then go over to that bay and go, hey, man, my name's Kent. What the fuck do you have in that gun? And he's like, this is my safety. Right? It's incredible that you ever thought that way, but I'm glad I made that leap when I did.
Yeah, me too. Now, if you only had a ginger buddy to yell at you from back behind the ready line saying, fuck that, go faster.
For sure.
Dude.
And I think it certainly helps that you have the Ernie Langdons and Panones of the world that kind of
Absolutely.
say, hey guys, it's one house, man. Like don't
Yep.
It sure
Yeah,
is.
dude.
Yeah, absolutely.
dude.
And to your point, Tim, I agree wholeheartedly. I think the divisiveness has certainly quelled substantially
Yeah,
over the last
it
couple
really
of years.
has.
It really has. But I mean, there are still going to be the exceptions to the rule, and we have to know how to deal with those.
Sure.
So that's how we spell segue into MG's question. Tim, how do you deal with the know-it-alls? How do you approach them in order to keep everyone safe when you see things going on or going potentially in a bad direction?
Honestly, how do I deal with the know-it-alls? And I think as teachers or instructors, we all can pretty well identify the guy that we think is going to be. In fact, it's one of those other questions that, like Kent and I kind of talked about at the dining room table. It's like we can always pick out who's going to be. I don't want to say the student with the most. Like, oh man, they're going to take the most work, but I mean, you can always identify that person within the first 10 minutes of class. And you can generally identify the person too, that's going to, and generally it's not a know-it-all situation. Generally it's from a time management situation. I have yet, and I maybe I ought to be knocking on some larger piece of wood here than I am right now. I have yet to have anybody that actually came to my class that wasn't there for the overall experience of actually learning. And maybe it's because I'm disarming a little bit, I'm more about like having fun and really like garnering a connection between, me as the teacher and them as the student, versus just like, okay, we're going to do this, and this, and these are the goals, and these are the drills, and these are what we're going to do. And we're going to do this challenge thing. And then having somebody was like, I've trained with Rob Latham himself, and I've trained with Jerry Mitchell, and this motherfucker's not going to teach me anything. So I'm just here to show him how much he doesn't know. I have yet to have that particular type of student in the class. Generally, that particular type of student, as disarming as I've been able to get them to be and just to understand and learn, they typically have a want or desire like, hey, I'm here. I've invested X amount of my money and X amount of my time to come to your class to learn something. But kind of the caveat to that is they tend to be the ones that might drive the conversation down a rabbit hole. You know what I mean? So in that aspect, it's generally never a safety issue. It's more of a, like I said, more of a time management. Like, well, this one time I took this one class with Noner, or I took this time with this one class with Steve Fisher, and he says that, and then it's almost like that challenge, right? Well, the instructor that I've worked with previously, I'm going to challenge what you're saying to what my belief of that other instructor is saying, and you know what? At times, I will let that completely, like, dude, that's a 10-story rabbit hole. Let's go all the way down. There are other times that I can very politely say, you know what? I promise you we're going to come back to that, but let me finish this portion of the class, and we'll get to that next segment. And I promise you it'll all make sense without having to spend 45 minutes to explain it. And that typically kind of stops that stuff. But there are a few students I've had in class that have been a little more challenging than others when it comes to that aspect. And me as a younger educator, maybe that's where, and I know Sam had kind of mentioned that, maybe that's where I could probably be a little more diligent in curtailing some of that. Like knowing when it's okay to let that conversation go for a lengthy period of time versus knowing when it's time to kind of turn the flow of information off for a moment and retask the class. But yeah, I mean, like know-it-alls, I don't mind working with them either, because that strengthens my character and strengthens my ethics. It also kind of puts me on the spotlight to question what it is I truly believe in of the information that I'm sharing or conveying too. Can I put my money where my mouth is at? Can I prove that the technique that I'm bringing to the table is just as viable? It may not be more viable, but it's just as viable as a technique that you might have brought from another class that particular know-it-all student might have brought to a class from another instructor. Keeps me on my toes. That's good, right? If we're not being challenged as instructors or educators, I probably don't need to be in the game.
Awesome answer, man. So I'm going to throw one to Kite real quick.
Yes.
Kite, besides having dinner at Marzoni's and hanging out, what was your favorite moment from the whole weekend?
Oh my word. My favorite moment from the whole weekend. Well, other than something I said earlier in terms of how moving that was, I'd have to probably say what I enjoyed the most was there was a block of instruction that's where Tim was talking about biasing your body weight in the direction you're about to move, right? And we had a visual barrier there. That's kind of what I call it now, right? And then moving with the gun up. And and the dude's like, you come on, you have another half second you can give me. Let's try this again. There's a half second in there we can get, and then you keep at it, and I'm like, holy shit, that was 1.5 seconds or something, to take 3 steps and to get a shot or 2, I think, and it was all A zone, what's up, so I mean that was, I think, as far as all the blocks of instruction over the course of 2 days, that was probably my my personal favorite. I don't know if you recall the one I'm talking about, right?
I do.
Yeah. So other than, but then the thing, the real downer for me though, the whole weekend was I legitimately had a cracked knuckle, and so
no.
yeah, and
You
so
were
every
such a trooper, man.
yeah. Yeah, and so every time I would draw the pistol, right? Every time I would grip the gun, it's like I'm just aggravating, the knuckle. So it's kind of in your head. But so I was running on Advil, trying to get through. So I think that was the only thing that I was operating at, like 90% of what I normally would be, just because of how painful it was. And there was some swelling that night and whatnot. But overall, it was. I mean, my biggest disappointment was I had to leave early, of course, right? Because I really wanted to run that stage again. One of the big things that I wanted to flesh out in the class. You talk about favorite things. One thing I came away with was I have my own. I'm currently doing a mental debate of myself between iron sights and red dots.
Mm-hmm.
And yes, I've learned how to use dots well enough because I listened to Jedlinski, Aaron Cowan, and those types, right? So I didn't have to unlearn things about how do you acquire dots, how do you, bring the dot to you, all of that good stuff. And yet, though, the first day when we ran the stage there, that morning, there were a couple of instances where I would come on target and I would go, where the hell is my dot? And it was more than sunlight. It wasn't just sunlight, because I think what happens is there are times where it seems to me, I don't know, you guys who have taken Scott can tell me, I don't know, that there are times where when you present the gun, if you visually attempt to treat that red dot like it's an iron-sighted gun, where you take your eyes from the target as though you're about to look for your front sight in your peripheral vision, you might lose the dot, especially on things like RMRs with the small window, and the curve thing or whatever. So there were a few instances where I honestly came up on target and I'm like, shit, I'm going because I don't have a dot here. But it's 4 yards, dude. I just frame the target in the gun and I'm good enough.
Yes.
And so part of me is kind of thinking like, I don't like to say but, because it implies I just disagreed with the precedent. But when you look at, looking through across a plane with irons on a pistol, I always see that. And one thing the competitive shooting is teaching me about seeing is seeing good enough. seeing what you need to see and given the time that you need to make a shot, the distance to target, and so on and so forth. So one big takeaway for me that was another favorite of mine, I think, was, that I think I'm asking some right questions about dots versus irons. I don't think one's per se better. The only thing I can say currently 3 years into this with red dots is definitively, at least for Kite, I am more consistent at distance with the red dot. More consistent. So I can make what the four will call kill hits out to 70 yards on IPSC target. But I do it better, more consistently because it's a dot, right? It's a finer aiming point. But irons are legit, and I don't know. People say they're going away. That there's a lot of I get where they're coming from with that, right? I get where they're coming from, but I don't know. But that was another. So in other words, a class where you get to prove your own gear. Ask yourself questions as to why didn't I have the dot there? Would iron sights have been better? So few classes get me asking those kinds of questions. So anyway.
So if I could weigh in on this topic,
here it comes.
So, Kite, first of all, those are fantastic questions, and I think that is a question that all of us have asked ourselves. When we finally do make the jump to purchasing our first red dot, it's like, well, do I really need this? I'm so used to irons. Asking ourselves very much the same questions that you're asking. One of the things that I've learned so far, just from living the dot life, so to speak, and taking the class with Scott, is not necessarily trying to determine the difference in the benefits between irons versus a red dot, but instead knowing the different circumstances in which a fine sight picture is required.
Well, let me kind of bias this a little bit. So, and I know Scott, and I know Scott's curriculum very well. Like I said, the guy's one of my closest friends. When Scott talks about especially things like proprioceptive indexes, right? So everything regarding proprioceptive indexes is based on the fact that you are facing an opponent or facing at a target direct on, and you are able to set your fighting stance as such, set your hands as and hand position on the gun as such, and be able to point the gun as such. The thing where that kind of it leaves a little bit as far as some fuzziness is, I think what Kite's talking about a little bit is like the stage doesn't even have you drawing to a target that you're directly faced with, right? I've got you drawing from the start while you're moving, that kind of getting off the X, so to speak. And the very first target that you're attempting to fire is about 6 to 7 yards away, and you're doing it from a lean to a hard right lean or a hard left lean on a target that's about 14 yards away. So those leans automatically, right? Those subjective body positionings kind of get you off of that. Like, okay, now, hey TJ, what about those proprioceptive indexes, right? Like, I don't want to say they're meaningless. They definitely have their.
It throws a wrench in the gears.
They definitely have their merit, right? But when you're not allowed a proper shooting position, or a proper shooting draw stroke, or a proper foot position, or a proper body position, what you going to do when shit hits the fan, right? How else are you going to be able to index that pistol or utilize that pistol with a red dot in a means of being able to put accurate shots on target when the rest of your body might be twisted or contorted a different direction? So, and that's kind of the change. Basically, it's kind of an advanced level to what Scott is teaching, and it's just getting your eyes to engage in something beyond just index of either gross or fine sight pictures. Perhaps there's a whole nother level of sight pictures. I'm sure Kite and Kent would agree with this now. There's a whole nother level of visual awareness that isn't gross or fine, that most people don't even pay attention to, because they think it's one or the other.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I shot a whole IDPA match just to try this out recently, where I ran a Glock with irons, and specifically one of the things I like with blacked out razor and fiber optics is Proctor has a Y notch kind of,
Mhm.
iron sided thing. I almost treat it like a red dot. And the irony of it is I'm still target focused.
Yep.
And with the target focus, every time I brought the irons to my dominant eye, the fiber optic front sight was aligned as though it was a red dot in some very weird sense. And so targets, even out to 20 yards, I was making my hits, still being target focused. I mean, this was blurry, okay? But that goes against the grain, though. You say that in some circles, and they go, "What? No, this isn't what you do." But it worked, So you can't take that from me, right? I own that one because I tried it myself. It works, So I'm definitely a dot proponent, but I kind of think that there's some nuances, there's some gray in a lot of the, this whole conversation around. And I'm not looking for which is better than the other. It's not that. It's just,
I agree. I agree completely.
Yeah.
You know what's crazy? Coming from a blind person's perspective, or almost blind person's perspective, dude, this shit's been blurry the whole time. What the fuck are y'all talking about? You fine what?
What is this? What is this focused word you guys mentioned?
Jim Carrillo, what? I counted the serrations on my front sight. What? Fuck you, dude. I could either see the guy or the gun. That's it. That's all I got. I don't know what you want me to do. But it's crazy how it's really crazy how what people don't realize. One of the number one things that Scott ever taught me was that you can transition those sight pictures mid-string. You can start with a gross sight picture and refine that shit, right? And you can start with a fine sight picture and refine that shit.
Well, and the thing was that, the initial argument with red dots used to be, right, that red dots give you a single focal plane. And
Yeah.
I promise you, people that are shooting red dots at the absolute highest level are still using multiple focal planes to shoot red dot pistols. I don't give a shit who wants to argue with me. Like if we were able to put some sort of a like a machine or a computer over your eyes to be able to see exactly what your eyes, either like accommodate to, I promise you, red dot shooters are just as guilty as anybody else at being able to accommodate their vision back to refining the dot to a certain particular level of refinement as needed before sending a shot versus always keeping a target focus. Well, at the same time, iron sight shooters are always super hyper-focused on front sight, front sight, front sight, front sight. When in the reality, the guys that are shooting iron sights, at the absolute highest level of performance are doing so without necessarily refining that front sight, type of focus. Your vision is constantly accommodating, whether you're old eyes, young eyes, broken eyes, healthy eyes, it doesn't matter. Like your vision accommodates constantly. And that's how you've been created. Right. So as long as you've got the ability to see, even if you're as blind as Kent, or, you've got the amazing eyesight of a 10-year-old child, like your vision is constantly accommodating whatever level of information is needed to make decisions. And we're not talking about just decisions to shoot, but make decisions on what to move, where to step, what to reach for, right? I mean, everything that we do is led by our vision. So especially in shooting. So that's the thing, is like that whole, again, it's another polarizing, it's just another polarizing type of, of disagreement or whatever, where it's like you're either front sight focused or three plane level, vision, or you're target focused, red dot only, and that's it. And little accommodation. And it's like, bro, I'm here to tell you that shit is a two-way street that works both directions for whatever it is you're trying to shoot, whether it's red dots or whether it's irons. And anybody that says otherwise, I promise you right now, they're lying to you. They're trying to sell you some snake oil.
Imagine for a minute, if you will, if Kite, Tim, Kent, and TJ got in a time machine and we went back to like 200 BC and we went into like a cave somewhere and there's these two dudes going, no, you focus on the tip of the spear. And the other dude's like, no, motherfucker, you focus on the saber-toothed tiger. And the other guy's going, no, you focus on the spear. And the guy's going, you focus on the saber-toothed tiger. And then the tiger shows up in the doorway, and the guy goes, ah! Like, right? Like that. We've been having these arguments, I'm assuming, for a millennium.
It crosses over to anything else that we do. Think of basketball. Think of baseball. Think of football. Right? Mm-hmm. You know, some of the best hitters in the game have different and varying levels of accommodation of vision, right?
Steroids.
So what? They stand there with a baseball bat and they're ready, you know, and they're taught all their lives, or their visual acuity is on. I want to be able to see the seams of the baseball as it's twisting, and I can be able to tell as a batter whether or not whether that's a curveball or whether that's a fastball or whether that's a knuckler, based on just what every piece of information that baseball is traveling towards home plate, and how I'm going to adjust my swing to swing and be able to connect with the ball all the way to the bat, right? So they're looking at the ball all the way until the bat connects with it, and then they're watching the bat swing through and then watching the ball leave off the bat. There are other batters who are just as fucking awesome at the sport of baseball that say, I don't do that shit at all. I make calculations based on what I saw from the pitcher's arm, the release from the hand, and I watch basically just a white sphere come towards me, because ain't nobody got time to read the fucking seams on a 101 mile an hour fastball. And I make calculations based on what the release was from the pitcher's hand to the ball, and they broaden their sense, or they reaccommodate their sense of vision to accepting a much more broader, open visual awareness to what's going on. And they make adjustments to the bat until they swing through the ball and then watch the ball drive off the end of the bat. Which one's right? Which one's wrong?
Whoever won the World Series that year.
The pitcher, at the same token, is the pitcher watching the catcher's mitt to throw and aim the ball? Is the pitcher watching the ball release from the hand and watch the ball drive directly to the catcher's mitt? Or is the pitcher picking out one particular portion of the strike zone or the plate that he wants to throw that ball to put that ball directly into that position? You ask different pitchers, that guarantee you their information or their answer is going to be completely different as well, right? So vision is a tricky thing, and to fall down this one little loop of saying that, like, no, you either need to be front side focused, or you need to be red dot focused, or you need to be target focused. Dude, you're killing yourself in your ways of being able to progress as a shooter if you think it's one way or the other or nothing. I promise you.
So I'm going to ask really educated, as you know from class, Zoltan's really good at asking very in-depth questions.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna throw one at you.
Okay.
To what degree is the ability to change that focus and work in imperfect focus zones confidently a factor of inherent visual input processing abilities that differ between individuals? In other words, did some dudes just work on it more, or do some people have natural ability?
I do believe there is such a thing as natural ability. You know, otherwise there wouldn't be shooters that literally pick up a pistol and 5 months later they make grandmaster and they're winning national titles. Just like at the same time, you know, if everybody did everything the exact same way, we wouldn't have, again, kind of going back to other sports analogies, you wouldn't have rookies of the year in every other kind of sport. Like, all rookies would be created equal, right? Because they all learn at the same time. And it's not the case. I think certain people have certain means of being able to do things differently or better than others. I also believe that if you put in the right amount of work to things that you maybe aren't so good at, you can become very, very good at, you know, at what the skill level it is you're trying to build. Visual accommodation, or accommodating your vision to either a fine focal point or a more gross focal point, or I don't want to say gross, but I say broad. You know, a broad level of focus that can be learned. Some people just have an inherent ability to be able to pick up on that, and maybe don't have the best way of conveying it, but maybe they've been doing it a long time. And to be honest with you, as far as on this panel of 4, Kite stands out to me as a person that probably doesn't think or doesn't realize, like, if he's focused on it, doesn't realize that he's already been doing it for probably quite some time. And I noticed that in class. So when we talked about like target bisection with iron sights, or even target bisection with a red dot, like Kite was kind of like one of those like, oh, that makes sense. But then you could also tell like the wheels were turning. He was like, holy shit, I've been doing that for a long time. There's a reason why he's been very, very able, or at a high rate of ability of being able to shoot probably at a faster rate of speed than most everybody else here probably on the panel, including myself, at farther distances, 60, 70 yards. And being able to put appropriate hits on a 70-yard target means he's been able to figure out pretty quickly and on his own, maybe unbeknownst to him, like as far as like a directed thought of what it is exactly he's visually focused on. For me, it took some thinking. It took some figuring out on that kind of thing, what it was I need to do. You know, like how, like when I started really being able to put really fast, effective hits on a 25-yard target, I was kind of the same way. I was like, man, I hear all these guys talking about frontside focus, and I'm trying this frontside focus thing, but man, I'm getting way better results when it's not frontside focused, and I actually am more, not to give away all my training secrets in my class, but when I'm more rear sight focused. Why the hell is that? And it was simply because as I opened up my vision to a broader spectrum, right, I freed myself from this whole like, okay, I'm tunnel vision to this one little finite point, and that's all I can do because, you know, Jimmy Double Alpha on YouTube told me so. Or, you know, Frank Shoot Fast on Instagram told me that that's what I needed to do. No, man. You know,
I'm starting a page tomorrow called Jimmy Double Alpha and Frank Shoot Fast, just so you know. That shit. Yeah.
So, and a lot of it was, again, and this is where a lot of my class, even on day one, and I'm hoping that you, especially the 2 here on the panel that took day one, I know some of the things in day one are probably very mundane. They're very fundamental focused. There's not a whole, you know, so guys that are looking for something maybe advantageous to their shooting as far as like movement related or transitions or things, then you know what? We got to start at the bare bones basics. How the hell do you grip the gun? How do you draw the gun? You know, how do you establish a presentation on the gun so that we can then start working through a lot of those, a lot of the things that we're talking about here this evening, which is visual acuity, visual awareness, you know, letting the vision drive how it is you're seeing things or shooting things. And most of the exercises, I'm sure Kite and Kent both can agree with this. Most of the shooting exercises are just that. They're exercises. They are not, they're experiences. They're not just a drill. Okay, you're going to shoot this drill, and this is what it is. You know, and I tell everybody in class, like, you know, it's about I had a couple of people, how many rounds do you want us to shoot? I want you to shoot as many rounds as it takes for you to understand the concept as it's been explained.
Yep.
So as some people might, you know, like Kite was like, cool, I shot 16 rounds. You know, I shot 1 magazine out of my gun. And I'm like, yeah, I see what he's talking about. It might take somebody on the other side of the range. They might run 2 or 3 magazines through it. And you know what? That's okay too. Because I want you, it's not just a drill or it's not just an exercise. It's an experience. And I want you to experience what it is that I have to offer so that you can just put it to the test. And right. And everything that we're doing is a litmus test. Okay. Tim says to do it this way. I'm going to do it this way. But you might literally turn around and say like, holy shit, I see it. Or you might turn around and like, Tim, I got a question for you. I'm not necessarily seeing it the way you convey that information, but what it is I'm seeing is, and then they explain it to me. And I'm like, oh my God, yes, that is a better way. Like unfortunately, I didn't use the right terminology or words to explain it to you in a means that made sense, but you got it. And that's all I want, right? That, right, to me, that's the win.
Yes. And that's why you have the lowest round count class that I have ever attended in 2 days, and I was the most mentally exhausted. Okay, and I go, yes, this is what I'm talking about, because it's the exhaustion was because it was cerebral, it was mental. I mean, what is it? Yeti says, Yeti bombs or whatever he says.
Oh yeah.
He's dropping Yeti bombs, that sort of thing, right? Like, I mean, I left just feeling like, wow, I have so much. I mean, literally within days, Zoltan, myself, and Ken, a friend of ours, we were doing the barrel drill out at my range here, you know, and just trying to keep with some of what we had, because it's still fresh,
Sure.
And when you start to, you make these switches where you take what you saw someone do, and then you remember what you saw them do, and then they have you do it. And then that's a different, neural network that's kind of being fired in you when you do. So it's like saying, tell me, I'll remember, show me, I will whatever, and then let me do it, and I will understand. There's a saying out there, and so I think everything you're saying now, the level of mental exhaustion I had was one of the evidences to me that this weekend, because you say in one of your I think on your webpage or something, it's a 600 round count class, and we'll go, what? They're 2-day classes where it's like ammo masturbation or something. I mean, it's like you're doing 1,500 rounds in 2 days. It's like, holy shit, that's a lot of shooting. And I'm suspect of that now. Like, how much are you really getting from 1,500 rounds downrange? I mean, I don't know. I don't know. And so it's certainly, it's a pyramid for me now. My selectivity with what kind of classes I go take. Just coming out of this, because it's not about round count, as much as it is a lot of all the other stuff that you give us. So I say all that just to echo a lot of what you're sharing now about the experience of it all.
No, I appreciate that. I definitely do. And I think that's important. Like, I want everybody to kind of leave the class not necessarily all on the same page, but on the page that you want to be on in your shooting. Right. And for some people, that's like, man, I really wanted to work movement, and we worked movement. And other people, it's like, man, I really wanted to work transitions, and by God, we work transitions. Whereas somebody else is like, hey, man, I'm 5 months into gun ownership, and I felt like I was drinking from a fire hose. And it's like, cool. And those are the types of folks that I'm like, man, can you pick out 3 things that you really took away from the class? And if so, let me know what those things are, so that we can ensure that we're kind of leaving you in a good position to move on to something else, whether it be move on to another practical performance class with me when I come back, or maybe it's to move on to somebody like Steve Fisher, or to Jedi, or to Bill Blowers, or Chuck Pressburg, or a number, a plethora of number of instructors that I would encourage people to go visit and go see. But that's the big thing, is like, I wanted to hit home for what it is that particular student needs. And some students, I might think that, man, I really want to work on advanced level stuff. And it's like, great. What's your idea of advanced level stuff? And I start you guys out shooting a 5-round group, and sometimes advanced level stuff means, what? Here's what we're going to really work on. Advanced level for you might be, hey, we really need to worry about, like, we really need to focus in on what it is you're seeing, and how it is that you are, gripping the gun and managing the gun in such a way, and managing the sights in such a way that you're becoming process-based. And if I can get you process-based instead of results-based, then man, I promise you, I'm setting you up for success for the next time you come visit me, or the next time that you come visit another instructor, or hopefully, lots of instruction throughout your shooting, or training career. So, I mean, those things are important to me.
Absolutely. So I only had.
What's that?
He's getting a robot voice. He's got now you're muted.
This is my show.
There we go.
I refuse. Fucking technology. So I only had one more thing written down that I really wanted to go over, and that is being an instructor and bringing somebody else to specifically bringing a student to somebody else's class, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because it's like, man, I hope I didn't fuck this dude up too bad. Because here we go, right? I'm gonna take him. I'm gonna take him to the big show and see how he does. And I won't say any names, Justin.
Yeah.
But it's very, very gratifying and very cool to see somebody that you've mentored and that you've helped take feedback well from somebody else, right? Because this is not. I'm not bringing this up to be self-serving. I'm actually bringing this up because it's maybe my favorite part of this whole thing is getting to stand back and watching somebody you care so much about learn from somebody else.
Oh yeah.
It's a whole nother, it's very easy to, this is the way, right? We're gonna Jedi Knight this shit. It's another thing to be able to be like, bro, I got you this far. Why don't you come to where I'm learning and see how you do? And I gotta tell you, man. So our boy, I put up a 2-minute video on my socials of you doing a target transitions drill with him, where you called him the metronome, and it was pop pop, pop pop, pop pop. It was 0.2, 0.3, whatever the hell it was in between, and the transitions were not equal to the splits. And then you put your finger on the trigger and you said, motherfucker, you better drive that gun because I'm going to shoot it real fast, right? Here we go. And you made him do one of those things. And he about fell over. Like, you can see him in video. You can honestly see him go back to his backside foot and, like, honestly tip back a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
And then the very next drill, you're like, all right, champ, now you do it. And he goes, pop, 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 pop. It's cool. So this weekend during the combat pistol match, we always do 2 warm-up stages because I have no idea who the hell's showing up to our match. And I want to make sure nobody gets into a situation where they're going to hurt themselves. So I used your shit this past weekend. I used throttle control and transitions.
Nice.
As my 2, because I'm not charging anybody money for this till you and I talk about it. Like we went over that, right? It will not be part of the curriculum until I'm sure I got it down. So I used it in a match. I was like, well, we'll throw it in a match and see how it goes. And here comes Justin up to transitions. And I'm like, yo, Justin, do I have to shoot this for you, or are you going to do it yourself? And he's like, like, yeah, it was supposed to only be 8 shots, but thanks for shooting 48 of them. Good job, dude. You know what I mean? Like, he just came out of his shell so much in that environment.
Well, I mean, Kent, there's so much more that we can equate that to, right? That whole sentiment of bringing a student to another instructor. I mean, look at it. I mean, those of us that are parents, we teach our and spouses, right? We teach our husbands, we teach our wives, we teach our kids, the same sentiment from one instructor taking a longtime student to another class is almost directly parallel to, a father bringing his son or his daughter or whatever the case might be.
Yeah.
Along with making sure that you didn't screw them up too bad, you have to make sure that you at least demonstrated through or led by example enough to get them to pay attention, 1, to what that instructor is teaching, and 2, overcome your own desires to interject.
Mm-hmm.
I'll tell you the thing I was most proud about was the fact that Kent took the class, obviously not just as a host, but also as a student, and was a student right next to his student.
Oh yeah. Yeah. He's good. He's good about shit like that.
Like that to me spoke volumes of the type of person, the type of leader, the type of educator that Kent is as well. It wasn't like, hey, so you've had enough with me, let me send you on to some other dude. It was, hey, come train with me to this other dude so you can get the same level of education that I get. And I thought that in itself was epic, and for Justin to be able to see that, like and because I'm sure in Justin's kind of singular view of his master instructor, which is Kent at this point, is like, I don't want to say he can see no wrong in Kent, but he kind of looks at Kent as like, okay, he's my mentor. He's the dude that I lean on when I'm making mistakes to be able to correct those mistakes. And for Kent to be able to throw himself out there and be like, okay, cool, dude, you're going to get to see me lose my mind or make epic mistakes or do things that are out of the realm of things that I'm doing because I'm being pushed in a way that's driving my progress or my performance as well. Dude, that, like I said, that speaks volumes as an educator to your student that I'm willing to put myself out there.
Well, and
I thought that was cool.
No, that's a great point, Tim. And I mean, I can speak from that experience firsthand. When Kent came down here and we took Jedi's class together, he wasn't there like, hey, let me show you that. It was very much that same, like, no, dude, we're students together in this. Right. And that's kind of what I think is the mark of any good instructor or educator. And that is not to always have that student be a student. Eventually escalate them and elevate them to a point to where that student becomes a training partner.
Yep.
Right? Somebody who can compete, who can push you the same way that you push them. And this way we all get better together. It's just that simple.
Yep.
Yeah, man.
It's kind of like an oncologist. I want to get you to a point to where you never see me again. You know what I mean?
That's a great analogy. I like that shit. I just can't imagine. I really can't imagine doing it any other way. I can't imagine withholding that information and like, I'm going to go get all this and then I will give it to you at a rate of X dollars an hour or X dollars a weekend or what. I don't know, man. Maybe that makes me a terrible business person. I don't know, but I'm sitting here like, oh, yo, this was so fucking cool. You guys gotta come see this. Like, that's the only thing that's in your head, and it's very gratifying. For me, it was some of my favorite moments of the class were watching him progress.
Oh God, yeah.
Because I've invested so much time there, and also for whatever it's worth, like, he's a good dude. Like I care about him as a person. I really and truly, I invest so much time in some of these people that I become their friends, their family. I really care about this dude, and I can't imagine withholding anything from him. I don't see dollar signs. I see like, you should probably come to this with me.
Mm-hmm.
And we all have those. You've got Kite and Zoltan who are the same way. You have like these friends that you're like, man, you gotta come with me to see this shit. It's like Barnum and Bailey showed up with the lions, and you're like, that lion's gonna do a fucking like acrobat trick right quick. Like, you want to see this or what? Because I want you to see it. I really do want you to see it. And to watch him hear from so far in his short progression, right? He's done a bunch with me, and then he's fucked around and went and saw Scott and Tim. It's like, so dude, your training progression in the last 8 months is better than most people's in the last 8 years.
Yep.
Right? by a long, wide stretch.
Yeah, and that speaks to the quality of the student too.
Sure, but
because we've talked about that. We've talked about that before. It's one thing to be a good instructor. We have to make sure that we, as normally the consumers of the instruction, become good students, right?
To his credit, and I got to give him this credit. Not one time during Scott's nor Tim's class did he come to me and run it through the filter of me.
Right.
He was there as a student the whole time. Never once did he come to me and was like, Never, he never did that.
Well, and even more, like I said, even more that speaks volumes is the fact that you didn't bring the filter to him either. And I have seen that happen. We're like, listen, bro, this is totally not the same stuff I teach. So we'll talk about that later after class kind of thing. It was just, it was great. Like I said, I mean, you were there as a peer, not as a leader, which was phenomenal to see the relationship that you two have together. And it spoke volumes to how I know you treat your students, and how you would expect to treat every student. And I think it's great. I mean, like I said, it shows me the level of care and encouragement and respect and desire to give your students the best of you, even if it's like, you can't get the best of me from me. Let me give you the best of me from where I'm getting the best of me from. And that was awesome.
Thank you, man. That means the world. That really does. I really appreciate that. So let's see. We've got Zoltan there wants to. I just doxed Zoltan on the internet, so now everybody knows what Zoltan's. Sorry, bro. Last question for Tim before I call it a night. With which still living person would you want to take a class with? What would be the focus and why?
Ooh. God, I don't have just one. I honestly don't. I don't have just one person I would love to take a class with. And I've got different reasons for. I've got 3 that I would like to acknowledge or mention right now. And of course, these are 3 actually. You and I again, Kent, had this conversation over the weekend. Tom Gibbons for me, for one. I think Tom is kind of like the quintessential trainer's trainer. He's a phenomenal human being for one, but he runs a great program. And again, it's one of those things like to learn all the things I don't know that maybe I should know about how to educate better. But I think and so taking Tom's Range Master class, Range Master instructor class, as well as this Range Master Advanced Instructor class is kind of that's on my short list. I would honestly, Craig Douglas of ShivWorks is probably, and I don't have this in any particular order, right? So this isn't a priority of order. Like, well, Tom's number 1, Craig's number 2, but Craig Douglas. I've learned a metric ton about how to effectively teach better from Craig. I was very fortunate to get to kind of sit in on one of Craig's ECQC training classes here in Albuquerque when I first moved here about 1.5 years ago. And Craig was all about like, bro, get your ass out here, and just set in and be part of the class as much as you possibly can. And I mean, that spoke volumes to the level of, just to the absolute quality of human being that Craig is as a person for one. But like his teaching style appeals to me a lot. So not even so much as like to learn about ECQC, which is amazing in and of itself, but also like how to become, again, a much better educator. Craig just does some cool stuff that it's always one of those like, damn it, why didn't I think of that? It's just like, so, but I think that's really good. And then others within there too. Gosh, like I have yet to get to train with my buddy Chuck Pressberg of Press Check Consulting. And Chuck's kind of been around the block, especially as far as like in his military career for freaking ages. And Chuck has trained with some of the best of the best of the best of the best as well. But I like his level of execution as far as like accountability of shots and things like that, as far as working with a pistol, just really appeals to me. So I'm really looking forward to being able to put myself into one of Chuck's classes as well. God, there's a multitude of others. Honestly, Masad Ayub, just because I know Masad's not going to be teaching for, a lot more years. I think Masad's got a lot. I think I've got a lot to learn from somebody like Masad Ayub, simply because, dude, the dude's been teaching for, it's got to be close to 40 years now. You know what I mean? There's obviously going to be some stuff to learn there. Maybe not necessarily from the shooting side of the house, but as from a use of force side of the house, or, a defensive mindset side of the house, things like that. I mean, the dude's kind of been there, done that, seen it, lived it. And then of course, I mean, I'm always excited with instructors from all walks of life that I would love to learn from, and not just from an educator's point of view, but also from just what can they teach me, whether it be martial arts or whether it be just the art of shooting a pistol or art of shooting a rifle. I'm always looking for times that I can get into one of Steve Fisher's classes. Like, I really would love to get more trained up on carbine stuff. So, and Fisher's a big part of me wanting to, like, I really want to take one of Steve's carbine classes, or a multitude of Steve's carbine classes. But I mean, that's the kind of the short list of 3 or 4 instructors that I would love to train with, or that I'm really looking forward to in the next 3 or 4 years, to being able to share a lot of my time or invest a lot of my time and energy into. But yeah, I mean, that list grows daily as I meet people, and they don't have to be just dudes that have been around, old salty dudes that have been around for, years that I think I'll learn something from. Dude, there's all sorts of people that I love to get their take on the art, and on their journey. So I'm sorry if it's a very long-winded but very kind of passive answer.
No, man, it's cool. Little known fact about Masad Ayub, he was actually an expert witness in the Cain versus Abel trial.
Jesus Christ.
I don't know if you know that or not, but oh my God. But anyway,
I saw one other question I wanted to address.
Dude.
Landon had asked, and I get this question all the time, but Landon had asked a question. What specifically keeps me in the 1911 camp, or am I opposed to plastic wonder guns, or do I train with both and prefer my 1911? And my love of the 1911 pistol really just kind of more comes from the fact of, like, that's what I started out with. I've got plenty of plastic Fantastics. I carry daily a Glock 48. I've also got a CZ P10C that actually replaced a Glock 19 for me, that I absolutely love and adore too. I've got a couple of SIG P320 X5s, one being a standard X5, another being an X5 Legion. I don't, as far as for use of the tool, doesn't matter to me. It's got bumpy things on the top, or it's got a red dot thing to aim at the, on the gun. And it's got this little lever that you press on it, and it makes the thing go bang, and things exit the end of the muzzle, and it pokes holes in paper or pokes holes in bad people. And, it does what they're supposed to do. My love, though, and passion for the 1911s is just more derived from the fact that was the very first pistol that I ever competed with. It was the very first pistol that I learned how to kind of like take apart and do some general gunsmithing kind of things on to begin with. And really just kind of my early education into firearms and pistol came from a couple of shooters that were very 1911 derived shooters. And that's what I continue. That's what I'm most passionate about competing with today, is single stack with 1911s. Just because I love the challenge of really having to not only solve a puzzle on a USPSA stage, but then not only solving the puzzle, but then I have to do all of that gun manipulation stuff too. I have to be spot on with reloads and, stage planning and shot calling, because of the fact that I only have 8 or 9 rounds in the gun versus, 15 or 18 or 20. But
you don't reload the gun. Just stop right now. Just stop. You don't reload the gun. There's a little fairy that follows you around and puts through magazines. Seriously, fuck you with this reload stuff, dude. Don't use reload crap ever again. You have a little fairy in your pocket. Every time you run dry, you just new magazine. That's shit. That's nonsense.
But I do both my SIGs, both my SIG X5s are carry optics guns, so I do spend a considerable amount of time behind dot equipped pistols as well. So it's not one of those things where it's sorry, I only could teach you how to shoot 115-year-old technology. Nah, that's wrong. You know, I shoot Glocks. I own Glocks. I shoot XDs. I shoot, yeah, that's right. I said it, XDs. You know, I shoot SIGs. I shoot CZs. You know, like I said, if it's a pistol, I already love it. Period. But yeah, I mean, just like I said, my passion, something about 1911s to me just have a soul, and that just
TJ wouldn't know anything about having a soul. You've lost our junior.
Man, my eyes are tired. Jesus.
Yeah, it's fine.
But yeah, I mean that's why.
Yeah, see, hold on. 2 world wars in a fucking holster, bro. Nobody stormed the beaches of Normandy with a damn 1911 at the ready or by choice. I hate that argument. 2 world wars. Bullshit.
So what? Just to give you a perspective on like war and history with TJ, don't ever take TJ to Gettysburg, because he'll stand at the top of Devil's Den and look around and go, "These dumb motherfuckers! Who the hell thought about this was a good idea to fight? Why did they go 50 yards over there?" And I'm like, I don't know, Mr. Military Strategist.
Yeah, there is a picture of Kent and I standing atop Devil's Den, going, and that was the conversation captured. Who in the hell thought this was a good idea?
Yeah. Everybody else is walking around being all like irreverent and quiet, like, "Oh, the ghost of Gettysburg." And TJ's like, "You dumb motherfuckers, you fought up here.
You don't got to be Stonewall Jackson to know you don't want to fight in the basement." Just saying.
Oh my god, dude!
Man, this has been a fantastic show, guys.
Yeah,
it really has.
This has been a killer, but we've been pushing it for a minute. We've been at about like 2.5 hours.
2.5 hours for a podcast. It's crazy.
I love it. We're stepping on Matt Landfair and PNS's toes right now. We're gonna go for 3 here pretty soon. Much respect to the gods of podcasting over there at PNS, by the way. You know, someday maybe we'll be worthy, but we're not yet. We're not there. Dudes, Kite, do me a favor, give me your shout outs. Tell me what you want to plug if you have anything to plug, and give me your final thoughts. All right, man?
Yeah, no. So first of all, really glad I got to meet you. You know, Green Mountain Defense, let me know how I could participate, support. I'm literally in your backyard, man. I want to be a part of you guys' world. This Zoltan would probably agree, you know, because he's across the border from me in communist New Jersey. Again, and you know, Tim Herron, like I said, you will definitely see me again.
Oh, dude, I'd be honored to have you back.
Yeah, definitely see me again, and I hopefully I'll be 100% on my hands. Again, thank you for everything. Like I said, it was profound for me. I left inspired, you know, and that's fire in the belly, right? So,
thank you so much.
Yeah. So that's what I got, you know.
Zoltan, thank you so much for your time. We appreciate you being willing to, you know, sit here and do this, and we ask people all the time. I always ask students to AAR classes, and so some people are, yeah, I think I could do that, and blah 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 blah. And you two dudes specifically, you and Zoltan were like, I have all kinds of notes. And I just happen to hit you up about it. And you're like, yup, we'll be there. So you guys, anything I can do to help you, anything, you know, we'll keep you on the email list for future future classes and future people coming and stuff like that.
Awesome.
It's no surprise, Kite, that like Tim's gonna be back for sure. And any other one of his cool buddies that we can like wrangle in, right? Like Jedi's going to be back. He's going to be back. We're going to do, you know, Ashton will be quote unquote back. We lost Ashton due to COVID. It wasn't his fault. Thank God he didn't die. He just couldn't shoot shotgun shells. But like any hosting that we do here coming up, you know, anybody like this that has come to a class, and I looked around and I was like, who are the like-minded guys? And thankfully in this group, I could have invited everybody from this class onto this podcast. It was like, shit, who the hell do I ask to come on this podcast? Because we have 14 people sitting on here, nobody ever getting a chance to talk, which is awesome. But man, anything I can do at all for you, please let me know, and I'll be happy to help.
Speaking of Ashton.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
There you go. The shotgun pews are coming. I promise. we'll be doing that here shortly. But I mean, man, Kite, you impressed me as a student and as a person, and so did your friend. There's Zoltan too. And man, anything I can do to help, I'm happy to help. And
Thanks.
you guys are welcome on any range that I'm in any way in charge of at any point. Hell yeah, I'd love to have you guys come back out. So thank you so much for your time, man.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, absolutely. Tim, you should probably sell some classes, right? Do you have some classes to sell?
So I've got a couple of spots open for my class this weekend at Del Norte Range in Rio Rancho, just outside, basically right here in Albuquerque. And as far as classes I've got coming up that are not sold out, that I would love if they were sold out. Let's see, August is full. But September, I've got a class coming to Kansas City, Missouri. So that's my old hometown and stomping grounds. But that's with Fast Tech Training Solutions is my host out there. It's going to be just north of Kansas City in Excelsior Springs, Cameron area. And but right now I think I have about 4 students. I get 4 or 5 students, I think, lined up in that class. So I've got quite a bit of availability in that class opened up, ready to go. And then I've got a class coming to Savannah, Georgia on the 25th, 26th, and 27th. It's going to be a little bit of a rare class. It's a 3-day class, but it's not an instructor development course. It's actually a 3-day practical performance class with kind of an advanced twist on it, where we're actually going to be shooting a match together as a student body, as all us a squad together, one day in between. So it's like TD1. Then there's going to be match day on Saturday, and then followed up with TD2. And then training day 2 will basically then kind of follow into, hey, this is what we did in the matches, as I'm taking video and taking notes on every single student and giving them, like real-time coaching right there, like everything from like how their stage walkthroughs, how they're breaking down stages and all that kind of stuff and putting it together. So it's kind of a neat opportunity that I don't always get. I'd love to do more of these, but it's got to be done kind of in conjunction with a club that's having a match or something on the same weekend that doesn't mind accommodating me like on the Friday before and then the Sunday after throughout a class too. So that's in Savannah, September 25th, 26th, and 27th in Savannah, Georgia at what is the name of that range? 17 South, which is a phenomenal facility. And yeah, I mean, other than that, come see me at timherronshooting.com is my website. I've got a calendar of classes. I've got a few openings for different classes. Like I'm going to be at Pikes Peak Gun Club in Colorado Springs, Dallas, Texas. I'm going to be kind of all over the place. Where else am I going to be? Dallas, West Virginia. I'm actually Hedgesville, West Virginia at Shadowhawk Defense, which is just the range kind of opposite of God dang it. What is the name of that? Peacemakers range. It's kind of on the other side of the tracks from them. But Shadowhawk Defense, I'll be in Huntsville, Alabama, which is, I'm hoping we'll be able to get TJ to that class. That's 45 minutes to an hour south of Nashville. It's actually not in Huntsville. It's actually in ARAB.
Okay.
But I'm being hosted there at the ARAB training facility for the ARAB Police Department. So like I said, I'm doing a 2-day instructor development course with the
God damn it,
ARAB and Huntsville PD.
God.
And then also doing a 2-day open enrollment course that Saturday and Sunday.
People can't train in any police department because he's got those warrants for, the whole thing back in the day.
But yeah, I mean, like I said, I can go over my entire calendar.
Excuse me, never convicted, Kent. Never convicted.
But my entire training calendar is up to date for all of the rest of 2020, and I'm adding dates like literally almost daily. It seems like here for 2021 already. as I've had really successful classes this year. I've got a lot of hosts, Kent included in this conversation here too, that are wanting to get with me to, hopefully as soon as possible to kind of nail down some dates then for next year to be able to. But I've already got 6 or 7 on the schedule already for 2021, and we're just into July of 2020. So I'm looking to fill my calendar up again with a lot of great classes all over the country. So, but yeah, I mean, if you're interested, timherronshooting.com is my website. You can reach out to me at tim@timherronshooting.com. That's my email to get directly in touch with me. If there's a class that you're interested in, I'll get you in touch with class organizers or get you signed up for a class. Also, Tim Herron Shooting is my Instagram page. Tim Herron Shooting is also on my Facebook group, or just look me up at Tim Herron just on regular old Facebook. And yeah, I'd love to meet with you and talk with you and talk about all things shooting and hopefully get you to come out to a class and come see me.
Awesome, man. Well, the Green Mountain Defense hosting model goes something like this. We bring you out once, and then we bring you out twice next year. So,
sweet.
You know, there is that. I think we need to do at least the same thing next year, and then instructor class. We're just gonna go ahead and do both those things. So we'll make our calendars and dates work accordingly. But
it'd be awesome,
bro. You're 100% coming back, and I've got a nice email list full of people that I can be like, guess when he's coming. And then
dude, that would be awesome.
I won't have nearly as much work to do. So yeah, all I can do is say you'll be back, and you know,
I'm looking forward to it.
You get to come back and see James like jump in the truck and go for a 6-pack of beer, because it'll be another 8 months from now, and by then,
as quick as he's growing, it's going to be awesome. So,
oh God, you're yeah, dude, we'll be doing it. As far as my plugs, greenmountaindefense.com/training. Let's do it. We've got a couple months left until there's snow. You Pennsylvania people think it's snow. I trained in Vermont year round. I don't want to hear it. There is no snow here, but you know, they tell me there's snow in Pennsylvania. So we've got a couple pistol classes coming up throughout the rest of the summer, and then 2 rifle classes for the end of the year. If you're wondering what this guy could teach you about a rifle, it's pretty simple. There will be no fast roping. There will be no helicopters. There will be no dynamic team entries. There will, however, be a discussion of you as a citizen homeowner in your boxer shorts using, Eugene Stoner's awesome application tool to defend your home. So if you want to hear about that stuff, if you want to talk about what can this guy do to defend his house with 30 rounds and a, SOLGW or whatever the hell else tool you want to use, fine, man. Come on out to my rifle class. If you want to throw on your plate carriers and your helmets and your nods and your 17 magazines on your war belt, I'm not the guy. Like, I don't know what else to tell you. I'm just not that guy, and I'm never gonna be. But that said, we'll
get you there. We'll get you there, buddy.
No, we will not. The tool has an application, and it must meet my application in order for me to teach it. That's the only way I'm ever going to approach it. So
we'll get you there.
Stop it. Stop it. You freedom fighting, democracy spreading. Like, I love you dudes, but I'm just not that guy. I just can't.
We'll get you there. Just
shh.
No. Just let it happen.
No,
just let it happen.
I just can't pretend. But in all seriousness, like, throw an LVPO on something that's at least 12 inches long. Your wife will be happy to hear that something's at least 12 inches long in the bedroom. If it's your rifle, that's great. And let's go out and do this shit, because we'll talk about what your zero should look like, what your defensive ammunition choices should look like, what your paradigm should be, why you're going to fight with what's in the gun or on the gun, and why you're probably not going to throw on a plate carrier and nods and the secondary and all this other shit. Because that's probably not what's going to happen at the moment that you need to defend the people that you care most about inside your household. So if you want to take that rifle class, greenmountaindefense.com/training. And if you don't, and like, no disrespect for anybody else, just go somewhere else, because I've been getting a lot of these emails on like, oh, how many, what kind of chest rig should I bring to your rifle class? And I'm over here like, oh, I'm not getting my point across. I don't know what else to say, but we're looking forward to that. And, that rifle class, honest to God, for the 2 dates that I have it coming up this fall, I've got like 4 or 5 of you dudes in both those dates. And I will absolutely teach that shit to 4 or 5 like-minded guys, and I won't worry about it. So, we're not going to cancel it either way, even if we don't fill it at 10 or 12 or whatever. It just will be what it'll be. And other than that, TJ and I have some exciting new developments in the affiliate link / partner / please help our channel clickety click the thing stuff. And he's in charge of all that. So
Yeah, I'll take it from here, buddy.
Thank God.
First of all, Tim, Kite, thank you guys for joining us tonight. We really appreciated having you. Your participation was both insightful and inspiring. Kite, it especially goes to you, man. I have never heard such glowing reviews from a firearms instruction course, and holy shit, did you nail that? Did you nail that one? So good on you. Tim, we love you, man. You're always welcome here. We'll certainly have you back on the show. So going through the ad reads, folks, time to pay the bills. So, of course, we ask that you support some of the charities that Kent and I both care about. HoldMyGuns.org and Rachel'sRest.org, both fantastic charities. There are links down in the description if you want to go donate. Remember to use code BB15 at Dark Angel Medical. There's no kickbacks or any affiliation there. We just like to show Kerry Davis some love. Let him know that the Sling'N podcast sent you in the order notes when you submit your purchase. Of course, we want to give a shout out to our friends at Apache Solutions, our brothers from other mothers over in the great state of North Kakalaki. You guys keep doing the Lord's work and keep it up. You guys are doing fantastic. As Kent mentioned, we've got affiliates. So many of you have asked about how you can support the channel. Well, if you head on over to greenmountaindefense.com /affiliates-links, also in the description down below, you will see the plethora of companies and fine makers and distributors of firearms equipment, parts, ammunition, you name it. I'm surprised we're not selling tires at this point, folks. But you head on over, follow those links, and not only will you get a pretty good discount because there's some really good organizations that we partnered up with, but it supports the channel as well. So help us pay the bills, and if there's anything you're going to shop for, might as well use our links to do it. Of course, we invite you to check out our Facebook page. You can post your questions, comments, chat with Kent and I on a regular basis. If you have questions for any of the guests that we've had on the show, by all means, feel free to post those on that page as well. Contrary to what you may believe, we actually talk to our guests on a regular basis. When we say they are friends of the podcast, they truly do become friends to Kent and I, and we contact and converse with them regularly. So if you've got questions that you didn't get the chance to ask on the show, go ahead and post them there. We'll make sure that the guests get them. If you have not yet heard the name, we are also pro staff members for Right On Optics. And we invite you guys to check out rightonoptics.com to see all their offerings for their new 2020 lineup. Also available in several of our affiliate links as well. Lastly, if you're new to the channel, please like, share, and subscribe. Tell your friends. Get them in the chat. Get them involved in the live show. Folks, we love a lively chat room. We love answering your questions and taking your comments and just having you participate in the bullshit that we normally throw out once a week. So with that, folks, really appreciate having all of you here and active in the chat, as I mentioned. But until we see each other again, God bless you. Oh, who did I forget this time?
Hold on. You didn't tell them about OnlyFans.
Oh, God, please. No, we're not doing that.
No, yes, we are. We're going to do an OnlyFans.
Okay. You will pay Kent to put his clothes back on. Or he gets the hose again. Something like that. But that's all for us tonight, folks. Thank you all. We love you. God bless you all. Take care of each other and get out and shoot.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, guys.
Appreciate it.